Chapter 467. Imperial older brother is too heavy-handed. Isn't this making Yi Junqing suffer a fate worse than death? When Duan Zitong heard this, her brows furrowed and her hands clenched into fists under her sleeves. Princess. Jingyu clutched her chest as cold sweat dripped down her forehead. Duan Zitong took out a purple pill and placed it in Jingyu's mouth. Withdraw. If Imperial older brother has anything, you must inform this consort. Duan Zitong waved her hand. Jingyu didn't dare tarry and immediately left Hanhua Palace. As soon as Yao Moan and Yin Shua entered the sacred city, they were led to a secluded courtyard by Duan Zitong's informants. Yao Moan had originally wanted to directly negotiate with South Lord. As long as South Lord released Yi Junqing, she would agree to any of Duan Shiming's conditions. However, Yin Shua kept stopping her, so Yao Moan could only reluctantly wait until nightfall. No. If you continue to obstruct this consort will punish you. Yao Moan couldn't imagine what kind of torture Yi Junqing was enduring right now. She immediately got up and rushed out of the main hall, just in time to run into Duan Zitong, who was rushing over. Princess Hanhua. You came at the right time. Moan wants to see Yi Junqing. Take me there. Yao Moan didn't have time to pay her respects and just reached out to pull Duan Zitong up. Moan, sit down first. If you go now, not only will you not be able to save Yi Junqing, you'll also lose your life. Duan Zitong dragged Yao Moan back to the main hall. Then take me to see South Lord, said Yao Moan resolutely. For Tingting's matter, Imperial older brother wants nothing more than to grind you and Yi Junqing's bones to dust. If he sees you, Zitong, Imperial older brother probably won't be able to tolerate you talking and will take your life. Duan Zitong wasn't exaggerating at all. If Yao Moan knew how much Imperial older brother loved Duan Tingting back then, she would know how serious the situation was. Then what should we do? Since Moan has come, I won't return empty-handed. If I can't save Yi Junqing, then Moan is willing to die with him. There were tears in Yao Moan's eyes and her voice was heavy with sobs. Moan, don't be anxious. This consort has already investigated. Right now, Imperial older brother has only placed a parasite in Yi Junqing. Although it's a bit painful, it won't kill him. It's impossible to reason with Imperial older brother right now, so don't even think about bringing up any conditions. Right now, Imperial older brother's mind is completely occupied with getting revenge for Tingting. Zitong has already thought about it. When the time is right, Zitong will naturally rescue Yi Junqing from the dungeon. As for the parasite in his body, fortunately, it's not regenerative. As long as there's enough time, the parasite will die on its own, suggested Duan Zitong calmly. But she couldn't bear to see Yi Junqing suffer. Even one more day would cause her heart to ache. No buts. Right now, this is the only way. Also, don't let your hidden guard charge into the dungeon. No matter how good her martial arts are, those tiny as rice and as fine as silk are, it's impossible to guard against them. If there's no one to receive her at that time, it would instead backfire, warned Duan Zitong solemnly. All right. Zitong, thank you so much. Yao Moan looked towards Duan Zitong gratefully with tears in her eyes. Great kindness cannot be thanked with words. Zitong is only doing this because I know who you are. Duan Zitong looked towards Yao Moan meaningfully. That's right, great kindness cannot be thanked with words. This time, Yao Moan didn't refute and nodded in tacit agreement. In order to rescue Yi Junqing, Duan Zitong used 2 days to plan. Thus, on the third night, Duan Zitong ordered Jingyue to use the excuse that His Majesty wanted to summon Yi Junqing to deceive some jailers. She then used knockout drugs to knock out some jailers and Yi Junqing was safely brought out of the dungeon by Jingyue. In a secluded corner, Yao Moen finally saw Yi Junqing, who she had been thinking about day and night. At this time, Yi Junqing's face was deathly pale from the torture of the parasite and he was extremely haggard. Moen, hurry and take him out of Sacred City. Remember to take the mountain path and not the main road. Also, Yi Junqing's parasite will be very painful when it flares up, but don't worry, it won't be fatal. After 3 months, once the parasite dies, he'll naturally recover. Duan Zidong gave a few simple instructions, then had Yao Moen take Yi Junqing away. Duan Zidong only let out a sigh of relief when Yao Moen's figure faded out of sight. Princess, please, said Jingyue suddenly with a solemn expression. What do you mean? Duan Zidong's heart trembled when she saw that Jingyue's expression had turned cold and was no longer polite. Jingyue doesn't dare to mean anything. It's just that Jingyue receives your salary and worries. Furthermore, His Majesty cured Jingyue of the heart-devouring parasite, so Jingyue's kindness towards Jingyue is equivalent to giving Jingyue a new lease of life. Jingyue is merely following His Majesty's orders to invite Princess to see His Majesty. Duan Zidong instantly understood after hearing Jingyue's words. Just as she was about to turn around to call Yao Moen, Jingyue sealed her acupuncture point. The silver-white moonlight fell on the ground coldly, as if it was sprinkled with a layer of silver. The mountain road was rugged and Yin Shui drove the carriage forward with difficulty. Inside the carriage, Yao Moen held Yi Junqing in her arms and gently caressed his thin cheeks as tears fell without warning. Junqing. I'm sorry, Moen has implicated you. Tears fell like pearls from a broken necklace, soaking Yi Junqing's thin lips that had long been cracked from the torture of the fire and ice parasite. Moen. Yao Moen. Why are you here? Hurry and leave. Yi Junqing woke up from his daze. The moment he saw Yao Moen, all of his pleasant surprise turned into fear. These past few days, he had experienced the taste of parasites. This wasn't something Yao Moen could endure. Yi Junqing tried to push Yao Moen away, but the parasites in his body suddenly flared up. Air. Moen, hurry and leave. The two parasites in Yi Junqing's body were fighting for territory with all their might. They fought and devoured as if they wanted to burst this carrier. Junqing. Junqing, are you alright? Yin Shui. Yin Shui, hurry and come. Yao Moen panicked when she saw Yi Junqing's face turn red like charcoal and pale like snow. She hugged Yi Junqing tightly, no matter how hot or cold his body was. When Yin Shui heard Yao Moen's call, she immediately lifted the curtain and jumped in. When she saw Yi Junqing's flushed face, she didn't know what to do. Master, I'm afraid that the parasite poison has flared up. Princess Hanhua said that there's no cure for the parasites in Prince's body. We can only endure it. When Yin Shui saw Yi Junqing struggling in Yao Moen's arms, she couldn't bear it and turned her head away. Junqing, you mustn't let anything happen to you. You mustn't. Yao Moen hugged Yi Junqing tightly and pressed her face against his handsome face that was as cold as ice. Since there was no cure, she would accompany Yi Junqing in the pain. Moen, let go of me, otherwise I'll hurt you. Yi Junqing tried to struggle out of Yao Moen's embrace but to no avail. This pain lasted for almost 2 hours. Perhaps it was because Yao Moen was there, but Yi Junqing didn't faint from the pain. It wasn't until the pain in his body gradually subsided that Yi Junqing struggled to sit up in Yao Moen's embrace. Moen, you shouldn't have come. Yi Junqing's lips curved bitterly as he looked at Yao Moen's tear-stained face. Bastard! Yi Junqing, why didn't you tell Moen that you received Duan Shiming's ultimatum? Why didn't you tell Moen that you were going to throw away your life? Do you think that Moen is someone who can be abandoned at will? Do you think that Moen is someone who's afraid of death? Yao Moen's tears fell like rain as she gripped Yi Juanqing's shoulders tightly. Moen, I'm sorry, Junqing just didn't want to. Just as Yi Juanqing was about to explain, Yao Moen abruptly threw herself into Yi Juanqing's embrace and sobbed uncontrollably. Yi Juanqing, you idiot, do you know that if it wasn't for you, everything Moen did would have been meaningless? Yao Moen hugged Yi Juanqing's waist tightly as tears streamed down her face. But Moen, if Junqing dies, you still have Han Genie. If, a world without you, how would Junqing be able to survive? Yi Juanqing pulled Yao Moen into his embrace, his haggard face pressed tightly against Yao Moen's hair as tears silently fell. Chapter 468. How would you know that Moen would be able to survive in a world without you? Yao Moen understood Yi Juanqing's explanation and her heart ached. Inside the carriage, the two people hugged each other tightly. Their tears soaked the other's clothes, but they didn't mind. How nice would it be if they could hug each other like this forever? Yi Juanqing's parasite didn't flare up again until dawn. However, Yao Moen was still worried and kept staring at Yi Juanqing's handsome face. Moen, it's been hard on you. At this time, Yi Juanqing was sitting in front of Yao Moen. When he looked up, he saw Yao Moen's clear eyes and his face turned as red as a monkey's butt. When he thought about how they had hugged each other tightly and vowed to live and die together, Yi Juanqing felt his heart speed up and he lowered his eyes in embarrassment. At almost the same time, Yao Moen rushed over without any warning and reached out to hug Yi Juanqing. Then she bent down to look at him. They were so close that Yi Juanqing could even feel Yao Moen's aura. What are you doing? It was true that Yi Juanqing liked Yao Moen, but they had just confessed to each other. This was a bit too fast. Is the parasite acting up? Is it? Yao Moen looked towards Yi Juanqing worriedly. No. Yi Juanqing was startled and immediately shook his head. No, if it's not, then why is your face so red? Yao Moen looked towards Yi Juanqing in confusion. Yi Juanqing's lips twitched. How was he supposed to explain? Was he supposed to say that he was shy? If he said that, he really doubted that Yao Moen would laugh so hard that she would collapse. Fortunately, Yin Shue's appearance resolved Yi Juanqing's awkwardness. However, misfortune followed. Master, Duan Shiming is blocking the way. Yao Moen and Yi Juanqing's expressions were the same as Yin Shue's. When the two of them walked out of the carriage, they instantly felt despair. They saw Duan Shiming standing in front of them with over 100 imperial guards. Under the sunlight, Duan Shiming's face seemed to be coated in a layer of golden light. He looked like a Buddha, but his eyes were too sharp, like an Asura from hell. Yao Moen, you finally showed yourself. We've waited for you for so long. Duan Shiming wanted nothing more than to rush up and snap her neck the moment he saw Yao Moen. Yin Shui, hurry and leave. As long as you escape, we'll have a chance to live. Yao Moen ignored Duan Shiming's murderous gaze and turned towards Yin Shui. Master, Yin Shui is willing to live and die with Master. Yin Shui expressed her feelings. Fool, if all three of us are captured, who can go back to get reinforcements? It was true that she had no intention of asking Yin Shui to call for reinforcements, but other than saying this, she didn't know how else to persuade Yin Shui to escape on her own. It was just as Duan Zitong had said, even if Yin Shui could throw all of these people to the ground, how could she guarantee that she wouldn't be implanted with goo during the fight? Don't worry, Master. Yin Shui will definitely think of a way to save Master and Prince. Yin Shui also knew the severity of the situation. She immediately leaped up and disappeared from everyone's sight. Your Majesty, this subordinate will chase after them. Beside Duan Shiming, Jingyu cupped her hands and asked for permission. No need. Every debt has its debtor. I only want the lives of these two people. Yao Moen inwardly sighed in relief at Duan Shiming's words. Back then, Jingyue had been able to escape right under the soul's nose by herself, so it was clear that this person's martial arts weren't weak. Duan Shiming, you're going back on your word. Back then, you clearly promised this prince to let Yao Moen go, which was why this prince allowed you to do as you pleased. If you don't let Yao Moen go now, even if this prince has to fight to the death, this prince won't let you get what you want. Yi Junqing abruptly stepped in front of Yao Moen and glared at Duan Shiming. Even though he had been tormented by the parasites for many days, Yi Junqing's kingly aura hadn't diminished in the slightest. Oh. Let me see how you'll stop me from getting what I want. Guards. Capture both of them. If anyone resists, kill without mercy. Duan Shiming's eyes turned cold. As he waved his hand, Yao Moen leisurely walked over. There's no need to go through so much trouble. We'll just follow you. Yao Moen wasn't afraid of death, but she couldn't just die like this. If they really fought, she was afraid that Yi Junqing would suffer. Duan Shiming raised his brows, then ordered people to tie up Yao Moen and Yi Junqing before bringing them back to the palace. In the imperial study, Duan Shiming sat upright and still as he glared fiercely at Yao Moen. It was as if his eyes were about to spit fire. Yao Moen, this is truly a case of you not taking the path to heaven but barging into hell instead. We originally wanted to send people to Ji province to invite you, but who would have thought that you'd come so impatiently to throw away your life? Tell me, just what benefits did you give Zitong to make her release Yi Junqing in spite of her niece's enmity with us? Whenever Duan Shiming thought about how his beloved younger sister had done something that chilled his heart like this, the hatred in his heart instantly surged to his head. It's precisely because of Princess Changfeng's enmity that Princess Hanyue released Yi Junqing and helped the two of us leave the south. Yao Moen was well aware that the only thing that could save them right now was this mouth. Nonsense. Bring it over. As Duan Shiming swept his sleeves, a eunuch had already brought over a red and green porcelain bottle. Yao Moen, do you know how powerful the parasite in this bottle is? Eunuch Ji, tell her. Duan Shiming looked towards Yao Moen with a cold smile. He refused to believe that Yao Moen would still be able to stand so calmly in front of him after hearing about the parasite's power. Empress Chu, listen carefully. The parasite in this bottle is called peach blossom. As the name implies, once this peach blossom parasite is planted in the body, it'll be terrible. At that time, as long as Empress Chu sees a male, even if it's a male dog, she'll take off her clothes. Eunuch Ji's voice was shrill and his shocked expression suddenly made Yao Moen think of Bingshan. Duan Shiming. You're despicable. Yi Junqing's eyes were bloodshot. Just as he was about to attack, Jingyue sealed his acupuncture points. Is that so? Then what if I see Eunuch Ji? What will his reaction be? Yao Moen stretched out her snowy neck fearlessly. Inside the red and green bottle was a fingernail-sized insect with a green head and a red tail. You. Humph. Eunuch Ji naturally understood that Yao Moen was implying that he was worse than a male dog and choked on his words. Yao Moen. Chapter 469. Duan Shiming. Yi Junqing was the only man Duan Tingting had ever loved. If you lay a finger on him, Duan Tingting will suffer a fate worse than death. Do you think Tingting would be heartbroken to see her own father kill the man she loved the most? Would she be in so much pain that she'd rather die? Yao Moen roared with all her might, but she was inwardly stunned. Originally, she thought that after seeing Duan Tingting's divorce letter, Duan Shiming would have the patience to listen to her explain everything. Yao Mo Wan. Not only did you kill Tingting, you even forced her to write a divorce letter. You are worse than beasts. I suddenly feel that spending time torturing you is an insult to myself. Hurry up and pull it down. Throw the corpse out and feed it to the dogs. Duan Shiming slammed the dragon table with one hand and roared. Duan Shiming. Which eye of yours saw that we forced Duan Tingting? Tingting had voluntarily written this divorce letter. That day, it was also Tingting who disregarded her own safety and rushed in front of Moen to block the departed soul's fatal strike. At that time, whether it was Moen or the esteemed prince, both of them were thinking about how to let Tingting escape. In the end, I only look at the results. Yao Mo Wan, no matter how glib your tongue is, Jin won't believe a single word of yours. Duan Shiming's gaze turned cold. At this moment, the guard's hand had already climbed onto Yao Mo Wan's snow-white shoulder. In the end, the two people that Duan Tingting sacrificed her life to protect will die in the hands of her imperial father. Duan Shiming, Moen and the esteemed prince's deaths might be very satisfying to you, but to Duan Tingting in the underworld, it's definitely heart-wrenching. Yao Moen's final struggle finally had an effect. Duan Shiming suddenly raised his hand and the guards immediately retreated to the sides. You said Tingting risked her life to save you. Ha! Yao Mo Wan, you don't even blush when you lie. If it weren't for you, Tingting and Yi Junqing would be living happily in Ji province right now. They wouldn't have encountered such a calamity. Tingting must hate you to death. Duan Shiming wanted to see how Yao Moen would cover up this lie. Your Majesty, if you don't believe me, you can capture the deceased and bring them to Moen for questioning. In addition, if Moen and the esteemed prince were cowards who were afraid of death, they wouldn't have come to the south today. At the time, Moen didn't understand why Tingting would do this, but when she saw this divorce letter, Moen finally understood. Tingting knew that Yi Junqing loved Moen. If Moen died, Yi Junqing's heart would definitely ache. In order to not make Yi Junqing's heart ache, Tingting was willing to give up her life for us. This divorce letter is enough to prove this point, said Yao Moen. Imperial older brother. What Moen said is true, Zi Tong knows everything. On the second day of the wedding in Ji province, Zi Tong saw Tingting and Tingting personally told me that she had used her heart's blood to feed that winged parasite, so Tingting could feel all of Yi Junqing's emotions. Tingting loves Yi Junqing to the extreme, so it's reasonable that she would help Yi Junqing and Yao Moen get together. Duan Zitong walked into the imperial study with the help of a maidservant. It had only been one night, but Duan Zitong was already so weak that it took her a long time to even speak a few words. Princess Hanyue. How did you? When Yao Moen saw the deathly pale Duan Zitong, she felt her nose sting and her eyes became misty. Duan Shiming. She's your younger sister, how could you bear to do this to her? Yao Moen turned around angrily to glare at Duan Shiming. The light in her eyes was so fierce that Duan Shiming actually felt a little guilty. But a moment later, Duan Shiming regained his dignified demeanor. He wondered what he was feeling guilty about. Who was the one whose daughter had died? We were just teaching her a lesson so that she would understand who her real family was. Jingyue, tell us what you saw at the time again, said Duan Shiming solemnly. At the side, Jingyue's legs were weak and her forehead was covered in cold sweat. Replying, Your Majesty, when this subordinate rushed over, I saw Yao Moen and Yi Junqing pushing the princess towards that poisonous person. Then, this subordinate saw that the princess was in danger and immediately rushed over to fight that poisonous person, but the princess was tossed over. By the time this subordinate caught the princess, that poisonous person had already disappeared, but the princess. When Jingyue had returned, she had added fuel to the fire. When Yao Moen heard this, she couldn't help but beat her chest and stomp her feet. Jingyue, you're not being honest. Moen doesn't have any extravagant hopes that you would truthfully report the situation to South Lord, but you can't just randomly make things up. People will die like this, do you know that? After hearing Jingyue's report, Yao Moen really wanted to rush over and scratch her face. Replying, Your Majesty, this subordinate is telling the truth. Jingyue looked towards Duan Shiming anxiously, her voice trembling slightly. Imperial brother, if you want to know if Jingyue is telling the truth or not, it's very simple. Duan Zitong seized the opportunity to interject. Come. Bring out the truth, Gu. The moment Duan Shiming said this, Jingyue's expression abruptly changed. She suddenly prostrated on the ground and begged for mercy. Yao Moen didn't understand and turned to look towards Duan Zitong. As long as truth Gu is planted into a person's body, if she dares to say a single lie, truth Gu will bite her heart. Every 2 sentences, it will bite twice. Indeed, people who have been bitten once will never dare to lie again. That feeling is truly unforgettable after experiencing it once. After Duan Zitong explained like this, Yao Moen was instantly thrown into disarray. It was hard to imagine what kind of crazy world it would be if everyone in the world had this kind of thing growing in their bodies. Yao Moen wasn't opposed to interacting with people and should be honest with them, but honesty also had to be measured. If one was too honest, it would also hurt others. Moen likes this, how about you give Moen one? Yao Moen looked towards Duan Zitong attentively. Miss Moen probably doesn't know, but truth Gu is extremely difficult to survive. Even our South only has this one. Furthermore, it can only be planted into a person more than 3 times. Don't be fooled by its unremarkable appearance, it's the national treasure of our South. Duan Zitong's intentions were extremely clear. Yao Moen shrugged and immediately dispelled this thought. Even if Duan Shiming's head was kicked by a donkey, he still wouldn't be stupid enough to give her the national treasure. At this time, Jingyue was already kneeling on the ground and begging for mercy. Your Majesty, please spare me. That day when Jingyue returned from Great Xia, she saw all the nuns in the nunnery covered in black blood and knew that something had happened. Thus, this subordinate chased after them, only to see that the princess had already fallen into Yao Moen's arms and was no longer breathing. Although Jingyue didn't see it with her own eyes, Yao Moen and Yi Junqing were both safe and sound, yet something had happened to the princess. In that sort of situation, other than using the princess as a shield, there was no other explanation. Jingyue finally revealed the truth. Guards! Bring Jingyue out and behead her in public. What Duan Shiming couldn't tolerate the most was deception. Your Majesty, please spare me. This subordinate was just muddle-headed for a moment. This subordinate guarantees that this subordinate won't dare to do it again. When Jingyue heard this, she immediately kowtowed and begged for mercy, tears streaming down her face. When Yao Moen saw Duan Shiming's cold expression, she immediately stepped forward. Moen, please let Jingyue off. The reason Jingyue lied was because she felt that Princess Changfeng wasn't worth it. South Lord, please spare Jingyue's life for the sake of taking care of the princess these past few days. Yao Moen had always been someone who clearly distinguished gratitude and grudges. That day, Jingyue had first saved her and Yi Junqing from the hands of the departed soul, then sent a letter to Great Xia for her. Furthermore, if it wasn't for her request, with Jingyue's abilities, Duan Tingting wouldn't have died. In the end, she owed Duan Tingting far too much. Of course Tingting isn't worth it. Yao Moen, Jin will temporarily believe that it was Tingting who blocked that poisonous person's life-stealing strike to save you. In that case, don't you owe Tingting a life? Duan Shiming's voice was still as cold as ice, but there was less killing intent in his eyes. Moen once swore that she would personally kill the departed soul to get revenge for Princess Changfeng. Yao Moen immediately declared her stance. All right. Zhen will give you this chance. Zhen will give you 20 days to bring back that poisonous person's head. Otherwise, you can come and collect Yi Junqing's corpse for him. Guards, lock Jingyue in the dungeon to reflect on her mistakes and take Yi Junqing away as well. Duan Shiming waved his hand coldly. South Lord, please allow esteemed prince to travel with Moen. Although Princess Changfeng blocked that strike for Moen, it was for the sake of esteemed prince. Moen feels that esteemed prince should personally take revenge for Princess Changfeng. Yao Moen didn't care who was more suitable to kill the departed soul. What was important was that she couldn't let Yi Junqing continue to suffer here. But this prince still feels that. Just as Yi Junqing was about to retort, Yao Moen couldn't help but stand up. No matter how much Prince blabbers on, once Yin Shui returns, Moen will have Yin Shui seal Prince's mouth. Yi Junqing immediately covered his mouth as he stared at Yao Moen. His wronged expression was extremely adorable. Be good. You have to be obedient, otherwise Big Sister won't give you candy. Yao Moen rubbed Yi Junqing's head. Yi Junqing froze on the spot. In the underground palace, Baijian and Nemo Chang were having fun when the bed suddenly collapsed and the two of them tumbled to the ground. Little Mo, you're so amazing. On the ground, Baijian was astonished by Mo Chang's might and instantly felt elated. Mo Chang suddenly understood. He never expected that the box of vigorous pills in Thousand-Faced Assassin's room would have this kind of effect. He had acted too late. Continue. Mo Chang instantly became ferocious. Just as he was about to push Baijian down, he saw that Baijian's expression had contorted and his eyes were filled with shock. At almost the same time, Baijian had already pressed Mo Chang to the ground. Little White, you've never liked being up there. Mo Chang was shocked when he saw that there was now a roof beam where Baijian had been lying. Right after, there was a deep rumbling that shook the roof until dirt fell. Earthquake. Mo Chang got up and tried to pull Baijian away, but Baijian shook him off. What earthquake? Someone's playing tricks up there. They better run fast. If this envoy finds out who it was that ruined this envoy's plans, I guarantee that they won't be able to live or die. Baijian said hatefully. Then he twisted his slender waist and walked towards the entrance of the underground palace. Mo Chang followed after him skeptically. On the ground, Yao Mo Wan was in full swing giving instructions. Bury it deeper. It's so shallow. What can you blow up? Yao Moen immediately grabbed a pickaxe and fiercely dug a few more times before ordering people to bury the sulfur and saltpeter. Since Yao Moen had deliberately practiced in 10,000 Imperial City, the hole she dug was especially deep. Miss, then what do you want to blow up? The first laborer could tell at a glance that she was a scheming person, so he immediately tried to get information out of her. Blow up the corpse. Yao Mo Wan raised her brows. He actually dared to get information out of her. His courage was commendable. Then the corpse must be worth a lot, right? The laborer continued to ask. The corpse is out. Take a look and see how much it's worth. When Yao Mo Wan saw Baijian and Nemo Chang, her lips curved in a strange smile. The laborer followed Yao Mo Wan's gaze and saw that there was a flash of silver light on the vast plain. Then he saw a black and white figure hopping towards them. A corpse has come back to life. Everyone, run. When everyone heard this, they instantly scattered, leaving only Yao Mo Wan, Yi Junqing, and Yin Shui standing there expressionlessly. It's you. Yao Mo Wan, do you want to die? You actually found this place. The moment they saw Yao Mo Wan, Baijian and Nemo Chang were astonished. They looked like they'd just seen a mouse catch a cat. This consort wants to see Nameless. Lead the way. Yao Mo Wan glanced coldly at Baijian. TCH. Who are you? Do you think you can see the senior military officer just because you say so? Yao Imo-wan, don't say that this envoy is heartless. If you leave now, this envoy will pretend I never saw you and run for your lives. Baijan flicked his sleeves and rolled his eyes. Yi Junqing felt a chill run down his spine when he saw this. Yin Shui, go buy some sulfur and saltpeter. Also, call the villagers back. Yao Imo-wan didn't waste words and just ordered indifferently. When Baijan saw that Yin Shui was about to leave, he immediately turned back to Yao Imo-wan. Yao Imo-wan, are you stupid? This envoy will give you a way out right now. Just leave. If the senior military officer comes back, you won't be able to leave even if you want to. Baijan was getting a bit anxious. If this continued, the underground palace would really be destroyed. Nameless isn't here. Where did he go? Yao Imo-wan lifted her brows in confusion. He went. Just as Baijan was about to speak, Mo Chang pulled him back. It's none of your business where the senior military officer goes. Yao Imo-wan, if you don't leave, then don't blame this envoy for being impolite, threatened Mo Chang. It's better for you guys to be a bit more polite. This consort has come this time to deliver benefits to Nameless. If you guys mess it up, then bear the consequences. Yao Imo-wan looked at the two of them indifferently. Her attitude was extremely arrogant. Benefits? Baijan lifted his brows in clear disbelief. Chapter 471. Alright, this consort has been poisoned by Lord Nan. If this consort is unable to bring back the head of the deceased within 20 days, the poison will act up. Thus, this consort hopes that you will hand over the deceased. Yao Moen got straight to the point. How do you know about the poison? Mo Chang asked disapprovingly. He had just opened his mouth when he saw Yao Moen rushing over. You still dare to fucking ask? How did Duan Tingting die? If it wasn't for the fact that you guys didn't do anything to save her, would Laozi have suffered like this? Yao Moen's eyes widened, her furious gaze almost touching Mo Chang's face. Cooked. When Yao Moen saw that Mo Chang's face was as red as a tomato, she lifted her brows in doubt. Go away. Yao Moen, men and women shouldn't touch each other, do you understand? Yao Moen's lips twitched when she saw Mo Chang bury his head in Baijan's chest like he was being teased. Yi Junqing and Yin Shui almost collapsed. Just say it, are you giving it or not? Yao Moen felt that Mo Chang really didn't need to do this. Based on this fellow's appearance, even if he was stripped naked and laid in front of her, she wouldn't even spare him a glance. Of course not. You said that you were here to give benefits to the commandant, but this envoy didn't hear that. If we give the deceased to you, what benefits will we get? Baijan objected. Ahem. This consort's benefits have to be combined with the disadvantages. Even if you guys protect the deceased to the death, it doesn't matter. At worst, this consort will just die. However, your Iron Blood Corps is going against Lord Nan. Admittedly, compared to the other countries, Lord Nan's military strength is negligible, but Lord Nan's goo insects number in the thousands. Look at this one, how persistent. As Yao Moen spoke, she pointed at the goo insect that was digging a hole in the ground. What is it doing? Baijan and Mo Chang had heard of goo insects before. The commandant had also warned them not to offend Lord Nan. If it wasn't for it, this consort wouldn't have been able to find this underground palace. So you can ignore Lord Nan's people, but you definitely can't ignore Lord Nan's insects, warned Yao Moen sincerely. Ahem. We can't make this decision on our own. Let's wait for the commandant to return first. Baijan compromised. Time waits for no one. In another 13 days, Moen will die from the poison. It doesn't matter if Moen dies. Alright, I got it. I will send a messenger pigeon to seek your opinion, Baijan said resentfully. Baijan originally didn't want to let Yao Moen and the others enter the underground palace, but he couldn't resist Yao Moen's glib tongue. Under threats and promises, Yao Moen and the others ended up staying in the underground palace that very night. That night, after dinner, Baijan brought Yao Mo Wan and the others to their rooms and then left with Mo Chang. What made Yao Mo Wan gratified was that Baijan didn't order anyone to keep an eye on Yao Mo Wan and the others. Perhaps in Baijan's eyes, without their waste tablets, not even a mosquito would be able to leave the underground palace, so there was a lack of security. In addition, Yao Mo Wan heard from Baijan that Wu Ming wasn't the only one who wasn't in the underground palace. This made Yao Mo Wan extremely happy. Moen, do you think that Wu Ming will agree to hand over the departed souls to us? Although Yao Mo Wan had described Nan Chang's parasites as terrifying beasts, if Nan Chang's parasites really were that powerful, why would Lord Nan Chang still be so stubbornly guarding his old territory? Thus, the key to success or failure had always been the people. Who said that we need to seek Wu Ming's agreement? Since Wu Ming isn't here, we naturally have to switch to a different strategy. Yin Shui, have you prepared the things this consort wants? Yao Mo Wan took out a dagger glinting coldly from her sleeve and took the porcelain bottle that Yin Shui handed over. What are you doing? Asked Yi Junqing when he saw Yao Mo Wan pour the liquid from the porcelain bottle onto the dagger. Moen promised Duan Tingting that I would definitely get revenge for her. Yao Mo Wan's expression was cold and her eyes were filled with extreme coldness. But how are you going to find the departed souls? Didn't Baijan crush the parasites to death? Yi Junqing looked towards Yao Mo Wan in realization. What he crushed was just a ladybug. When Yin Shui caught it for him, she switched it out. Yao Mo Wan had never doubted Yin Shui's quick-wittedness. Thus, it only took Yao Moen and the others an hour to reach the departed soul without any obstructions. What made Yao Moen feel gratified was that the departed soul was currently tied to a pillar by black chains and couldn't move at all. Since it was the will of the heavens, how could she let it down? Yi Junqing. You actually dare to appear in front of me. Let me go. I'm going to kill you. The moment the departed souls saw Yi Junqing, they became very agitated. Let you go. Do you think we're idiots? Departed souls, I, Yao Mo Wan, originally had no enmity with you. Even if you almost took my life, I would just end you with a single stab. After all, killing people is just a small matter. However, you shouldn't have killed so many innocent nuns, especially Duan Tingting. So. As Yao Mo Wan spoke, she abruptly pulled out a dagger and stabbed the departed soul's left abdomen. Thick smoke rose and a charred smell filled the air. Whoa. As the departed souls howled in pain, Yin Shui sealed off their mute acupoint. At first, Yi Junqing was worried that the departed soul's poisonous blood would splash onto Yao Mo Wan, but now it seemed that his worries were unnecessary. How long has it been since you felt pain this clearly? How does it feel? Yao Mo Wan's delicate lips curved up, her eyes cold. Whoa. The departed souls clenched their fists as they struggled to break free of the chains. Another stab. The charred smell mixed with a foul stench assaulted Yao Mo Wan's nose, causing her to feel nauseous from time to time. In view of this, Yao Mo Wan hastily stabbed twice before chopping at the departed soul's neck. Another stab, and another stab. On the third stab, Yi Junqing spoke. Mo Wan, is that enough? It was true that Yi Junqing felt that the departed souls deserved death by 1,000 cuts, but this scene was far too bloody and the smell wasn't very pleasant. At this moment, the departed souls' features twisted in pain and their eyes looked like they were about to spit out blood. This is much more difficult than cutting watermelons. You do it. Alright, Yao Mo Wan admitted that she hadn't wanted to be this cruel, but the departed soul's neck was just too hard. She couldn't chop it off. Chapter 472. You guys. You'll grow corns. Bai Zhan was stunned and immediately covered himself with the rest of the blanket. Yao Mo Wan. You're shameless and despicable. What do you guys want? Bai Zhan roared angrily at Yao Moan. At this time, Mo Chang had already changed his clothes and tossed Bai Zhan's clothes over. We didn't want to disturb you guys, but we really want to leave this place, so please open the door first. We can come back later, said Yao Mo Wan. Are you crazy? Are we professional gatekeepers? Why did you come to us for something like opening the door? Also, why should we open the door for you? What are you holding in your hands? When Bai Zhan looked towards Yao Mo Wan angrily, he saw the red silk still dripping with blood in Yin Shue's hands. Don't worry, we took the antidote so we'll be fine, said Yao Mo Wan sincerely. You guys killed the departed. Yao Mo Wan. Bai Zhan was enraged, but unfortunately, he only realized it was a sneak attack. When Mo Chang saw that Bai Zhan had collapsed to the ground, he immediately went up to support him, but he also helped himself to the ground. This consort knows you guys aren't afraid of death, but... Yao Mo Wan glanced at Yin Shui as she spoke. This is Yin Shui's personal, passion aphrodisiac. After many tests, it's extremely effective. Normal cows and horses can go up to 10 days without rest. However, after resting, they never wake up again. Before they die, they still maintain, cough cough, should we open the door? Yin Shui's gaze turned solemn. At the side, Yi Junqing choked inwardly. He suddenly felt that he had wronged Yao Mo Wan. Perhaps it wasn't Yao Mo Wan who had led Yin Shui and Tingyu astray. There was a good saying, birds of a feather flock together. Under this kind of extreme threat, Bai Zhan and Mo Chang compromised. Once Yao Mo Wan and the other two safely left the underground palace, Yin Shui still gave the aphrodisiac to Bai Zhan and Mo Chang under Yao Mo Wan's instructions to prevent them from chasing after them. In the end, Bai Zhan and Mo Chang plowed the ground in fear for 2 days and 1 night. Although they weren't so tired that they stopped, they really couldn't get out of bed. One's legs were weak from kneeling and the other's feet were numb from standing. After 7 days, Yao Moan and the others finally brought the head back to Nanxiang and personally burned it in front of Duan Tingting's grave. Although Lord Nanchang didn't make things difficult for them, he still made his position clear. Even though it was proven that Duan Tingting had died at the hands of the departed soul, if it weren't for the sake of saving Yao Moan, Duan Tingting wouldn't have suffered such a calamity. Thus, from then on, Nanchang no longer welcomed the two of them. On the night they left, Yao Moan privately sought out Duan Zitong. Princess Hanyue, it was all thanks to Princess that Moan and the esteemed prince were able to escape unharmed this time. Moan has also implicated Princess in this matter, so Moan is truly ashamed. In the future, if Princess has any use for Moan, Moan will naturally do everything in my power. At the table, Yao Moan used tea in place of wine as a toast. Elder sister doesn't need to calculate so clearly with Zitong. The reason why this matter can end well is because elder sister was able to take the head of the deceased to avenge Tingting. Now that imperial brother is able to stop this matter here, it is already a great fortune. Compared to Yao Moan, Duan Zitong felt like she had a new lease on life. After all, given how much Duan Shiming doted on Duan Tingting, it was already a miracle that Yao Moan and Yi Junqing were able to leave Nanchang alive. After this separation, I don't know when we'll meet again. Moan has something that I must tell Princess. Back then, when Moan and the esteemed prince were being pursued by the deceased, if it wasn't for the fact that the Iron Blood Army had appeared in time, Moan and the esteemed prince wouldn't have been able to escape death either. Yao Moan's eyes were as clear as water and as deep as a lake. The Iron Blood Army. Isn't that King Chu's backer? Why would they save you? Duan Zidong looked towards Yao Moan in confusion. Saving Moan isn't the main point. The main point is that they had been lying in ambush a long time ago. They saw that Princess Changfeng was about to be killed, but they didn't do anything to stop it. Their intentions couldn't be more obvious, said Yao Moan solemnly. They wanted to use Tingting's death to sow discord between you and Imperial Brother. Duan Zidong came to a sudden realization. Moan just wanted to remind Princess that the Iron Blood Army's Captain Wu Ming is someone who will use any means necessary to gain fame. If Lord Nanchang forms an alliance with him, you'll definitely suffer. Yao Moan admitted that her words were selfish, but she truly was thinking for Nanchang. As of now, Yao Moan felt more and more that this Wu Ming wasn't as simple as she thought he was. If he really wanted to control the emperor, then he shouldn't have let Yi Junqing go in the first place. It was true that if he didn't kill Yi Junqing out of consideration for his old friend, then he could have just put him under house arrest and released him once the situation had stabilized. So this Wu Ming was very suspicious. Zidong understands older sister's meaning. If Imperial Brother really wants to form an alliance, Zidong will definitely do everything in my power to stop him. Duan Zidong was intelligent and naturally understood immediately. The moon was clear and the night was as cool as water. The crescent moon hung in the sky like a bow, giving off a weak light. The world was filled with a somber atmosphere. Inside the palace, Lord Nanchang sat nervously on the dragon couch. His clenched fists were trembling uncontrollably on his lap. Suddenly, there was a gust of wind. The doors and windows were still open, but Duan Shiming could clearly see a figure that was as black as the netherworld appear in front of him like a ghost. Duan Shiming felt that this was a demonic existence. No matter how powerful his movement technique was, it was impossible for him to stay still in the air. The black robe glowed under the light of the night pearl. The man was extremely handsome and exuded a demonic charm. Who are you? The invisible pressure made it difficult for Duan Shiming to breathe. He didn't dare to look at the man in the air and his hands trembled even more violently. This is the antidote. The clear and melodious voice was like the most beautiful note in the world, intoxicating Duan Shiming's ears. He couldn't help but stretch out his hand and catch the red pill that was slowly falling to the ground. Just as Duan Shiming swallowed the pill, a gentle breeze blew past. When he raised his eyes again, the room was empty. If it wasn't for the effect of the pill, Duan Shiming wouldn't even be sure that he was dreaming. At the highest point of Nanchang Imperial City, a woman dressed in white stood on the edge of the eaves. Her crescent white dress fluttered in the wind like a white lotus blooming in the night sky. She was so beautiful that it made one sigh. This woman was naturally extremely beautiful. Her beauty was otherworldly. Even an otherworldly fairy couldn't compare to her. If Huan Luo and Yao Moan were both on the verge of death, who would you save? At some point, the black figure had already landed behind the woman in white. She's just a lowly commoner. How could she be compared to you? The clear voice carried with it a bewitching charm. Save who? Huan Luo didn't like ambiguous answers. You. It was true that our great priest Sang Lan found this kind of question very boring, but he still answered very patiently. After obtaining the answer she wanted, a trace of a smile gradually appeared on Huan Luo's icy face. The next day, after Yao Moan and Yi Junqing bade farewell to Lord Nan and Princess Hanyue, they left Sacred City. Before they left, Duan Shiming naturally removed the poison in Yao Moan's body. As for the fire-nice parasites in Yi Junqing's body, Lord Nan used a very special method to remove them. Prince, are you all right? Ever since they left Sacred City, this was the 10th time Yi Junqing had impatiently jumped out of the carriage. At this time, Yi Junqing staggered back from the small forest nearby. His face was slightly pale and his feet were a bit unsteady. "I'm fine. Let's continue on our way." Yi Junqing's voice was filled with unconcealable exhaustion. "Master, this subordinate feels that Lord Nan did this on purpose." When Yin Shui saw that Yi Junqing didn't even have the strength to get on the carriage, she reached out to give him a hand in sympathy. "There's no need to feel that it was definitely on purpose. Although this consort is slow, this consort doesn't think that cooking oil and ice water will be able to expel the fire and ice parasites." Yi Junqing had already returned to the carriage and was looking towards Yao Moen with a haggard expression. Chapter 473. Even if he did it on purpose, can Junqing not drink it? Yi Junqing's lips curved into a bitter smile. At that moment, even though Yi Junqing knew that this was a slap to the face, he couldn't refuse. Zitong's words last night were very thought-provoking. When Yao Moen saw that Yi Junqing was on the verge of collapsing, she got up and sat down next to Yi Junqing. She allowed Yi Junqing to lean against her. This extremely casual action caused Yi Junqing to feel extremely pleased. What did she say? Yi Junqing carefully leaned his head against Yao Moen's shoulder, overflowing with happiness. Zitong said that regarding Duan Tingting's matter, Duan Shiming is kind. If this was any other time, even if we took the departed soul's head, he would still make us wish we were dead. Yao Moen's gaze was cold and there were too many questions in her heart. Junqing is currently in a state where he can neither live nor die. If the word kind could be used on Duan Shiming, then Yi Junqing really felt that there were no bad people left in this world. On the second day after the three of them left Nanxiang, Feng Lin unexpectedly appeared in front of Yao Moen. When they returned from the underground palace, Yao Moen had Yin Shuiga send a message to everyone in Guangning. "Master, it's bad." Feng Lin's face was ashen. It was obvious that he had been traveling day and night. Something happened to Guangning. Yao Moen's heart shook and she looked towards Feng Lin worriedly. At the side, Yi Junqing also frowned. Chu Mabe came to Guangning to propose marriage. Feng Lin's words were so shocking that Yao Moen subconsciously choked. At the side, Yi Junqing suddenly had an ominous premonition. He immediately asked, who did he propose to? In reality, Feng Lin felt that Yi Junqing's question was meaningless. In all of Guangning, who was worthy of the title of Shu's crown princess? When Yi Junqing saw Feng Lin glance towards Yao Moen, he immediately flew into a rage. Chu Mabe wants to marry Moen. His head must have been kicked by a donkey. Yi Junqing shouted angrily. However, he saw Yao Moen's cold gaze drift over. Junqing is saying that he isn't worthy. With your celestial beauty, no matter what, you have to marry. In any case, this king doesn't agree. No matter what, you have to marry someone like this king who has an imposing appearance, a valiant and heroic man. As Yi Junqing cursed silently, he had already dragged out Chu Mabe's entire family to greet them one by one. I'm afraid you have no choice but to agree. Now that the army of Shu has gathered at the Golden Gate, if you refuse, Great Shu will immediately send troops to attack Mangyuan. Feng Lin revealed the seriousness of the situation. Just what is Chu Mabe trying to do? Compared to Yi Junqing, Yao Moen was clearly much calmer. This was because she knew very well that she and Chu Mabe had always hated each other. She was even more certain that Chu Mabe wasn't feeling very comfortable right now. Guangning private residence, before Yao Moen returns, Imperial Brother is not allowed to leave this place. Chu Mabe clenched his teeth in anger when he saw that his most beloved younger brother had turned against him. This crown prince will not marry Yao Mo Wan. This crown prince doesn't have a brother like you. Ma Xin, you've disappointed Imperial Brother too much. Chu Mabe frowned as he looked towards Chu Ma Xin mournfully. Even if it's hopeless, Ma Xin still won't let Imperial Brother leave. Imperial Brother, Yao Moan isn't bad. In any case, if Imperial Brother marries her, it'll definitely be like adding wings to a tiger. Chu Ma Xin knew that Imperial Brother might hate him now, but he wouldn't be able to thank him in the future. Adding wings to a tiger is impossible, it'll definitely make things worse. Ma Xin, it's fine if you don't let Imperial Brother leave, but you should at least return the pigeon to Imperial Brother. Otherwise, how will Imperial Brother report the situation here to Imperial Father? Chu Mabe did his best to make his expression seem amiable. Imperial Brother doesn't need to worry about this. Before Imperial Father came, he told Ma Xin that Ma Xin will be responsible for everything from the moment we arrive at Guangning until Imperial Brother marries Yao Moan and returns to the capital. Chu Ma Xin's stubborn expression made Chu Mabe tremble in anger. You, get out. Chu Mabe's expression turned cold. As he glared at Chu Ma Xin, he pointed fiercely at the door. The moment the door closed, Chu Mabe strode over to the bed, his lips twitching uncontrollably as he continued to grind his teeth. Yin Xiong. Chu Mabe only tried calling out after he was sure that Chu Ma Xin had walked far away. After all, now that he had Kubu Zhuer as his future wife, Chu Ma Xin's emotions, anger, sorrow, and happiness were all under his control. If he found out that Yin Xiong had any intentions of calling for help and they started fighting, it would be hard to say who would win. The consequence of alerting the enemy was that Yin Xiong would never have a chance to escape. However, Chu Mabe didn't have too much hope. Ever since he was knocked out by Chu Ma Xin's aphrodisiac soup and cartilage powder, he had tried calling for help almost every day, but no one responded. What made Chu Mabe extremely happy was that Yin Xiong didn't disappoint him this time. You're injured? Asked Chu Mabe worriedly when he saw that Yin Xiong's face was deathly pale and his lips were chapped. This subordinate and the soul-shattering 3 dreams were ambushed by Slaughter Wolf while chasing after Master. The soul-shattering 3 dreams have been captured. Fortunately, the 3 of them risked their lives to help, allowing Yin Xiong to return to Master's side to protect him. Reported Yin Xiong truthfully. As he spoke, he subconsciously placed his hand on his chest, finding it hard to breathe. They were actually this heavy-handed. Chu Mabe's gaze turned cold when he saw the blood at the corner of Yin Xiong's lips. He stepped forward and knocked Yin Xiong's wrist. Poisoned. Chu Mabe's eyes flashed, his voice filled with unconcealable shock. What kind of martial arts did Yin Xiong possess? For him to be poisoned, it was clear how skilled the poisoner was. This subordinate was incompetent. Not only this subordinate, but the soul-shattering 3 dreams were also poisoned. However, this subordinate saw that greed had given them the antidote when we were escaping. This subordinate has been circulating energy to force out the poison, so he's fine now, replied Yin Xiong, suppressing the roiling pain in his body. What is Imperial Father trying to do? What is it that you can't discuss with this crown prince? Must you use such an extreme method? Seeing that Yin Xiong was so heavily injured and that it was unknown whether the soul-shattering 3 dreams were dead or alive, Chu Mabe finally spoke out in anger. Forgive this subordinate for speaking bluntly, but His Majesty's conduct regarding this matter is completely different from before. Yin Xiong didn't dare to make any wild guesses and only spoke his own opinion. So you're suspicious? Chu Mabe turned to look at Yin Xiong, his gaze gradually turning cold. This subordinate doesn't dare to suspect His Majesty, but there must be a reason for this abnormality. Yin Xiong knew that Chu Mabe and Chu Shi had a deep father-son relationship, so it was hard for him to not be blinded. And as an outsider, it was naturally easier for him to see through the clues than Chu Mabe. Why didn't this crown prince think of this? Could it be that Imperial Father has some hidden trouble? But just what kind of hidden trouble would make Imperial Father hide it from even this crown prince? Chu Mabei's brows were tightly furrowed as his charming eyes narrowed slightly. "I'm afraid only His Majesty can answer Master's question," said Yin Shui in a low voice. "Imperial Father is currently avoiding this crown prince. Wanting to see Imperial Father is easier said than done." Chu Mabei let go of Yin Xiong and walked back to the couch. "Actually, if you want to see His Majesty, it's not impossible. As long as Master and Yao Moen get married, there won't be an empty seat on the day of the wedding." Yin Xiong didn't notice at all that his seemingly reasonable suggestion had caused Chu Mabei's expression to twist to such an extent. "Is there no other way?" Chu Mabei's face was ashen and the veins on his forehead were bulging. His eyes were as cold as ice. Forgive this subordinate for being slow-witted, but I really can't think of a better way." Seeing that Chu Mabei's expression seemed like he would rather draw his sword and commit suicide than marry Yao Moen, Yin Xiong fell silent. Chapter 474. "Forget it, it looks like this is the only way." Chu Mabei finally compromised. "Master, even if you agree to marry Yao Moen, the next step is to think of a way to get Yao Moen to agree as well. Even if it's just an act, Yao Moen has to cooperate." Yin Xiong felt disappointed and frustrated. If only Master had known this would happen, why would he have been so overbearing towards Yao Moen? This time, it was Chu Mabei's turn to remain silent. Once Yin Xiong left, Chu Mabei seriously considered this problem. It was true that he didn't like Yao Moen and even hated her, but with the current situation, he had no other choice but to marry Yao Moen. Because of this, Chu Mabei finally spoke openly with his dearest little brother, Chu Maxin, for a long talk. Of course, Chu Mabei never planned on telling Chu Maxin about what Yin Xiong had reported. After all, the matter hadn't been investigated clearly, so one less person knowing was one less danger. "Imperial older brother, do you really think so?" Chu Maxin lifted his brows as he looked towards Chu Mabei suspiciously. "That's right, out of all the women this crown prince has come into contact with, Yao Moen is the most intelligent, virtuous, gentle, kind, and beautiful." "Maxin, you can completely blame this imperial older brother for being shallow and short-sighted, but imperial older brother really feels that Yao Moen is the best candidate to be our great Shu's crown prince consort." Chu Mabei's hand tightened around his thigh. Only by doing this could he suppress the urge to slap himself. No. Imperial older brother truly has exceptional insight. Didn't Maxin say it before? Yao Moen isn't inferior to Yao Maxin at all. If I can marry Yao Moen, great Shu will be blessed. Chu Maxin said excitedly, his eyes sparkling. At the same time, Chu Mabei's eyes were also sparkling. "Imperial older brother, you're crying." When Chu Maxin saw the tears in Chu Mabei's eyes, he finally believed Chu Mabei's determination to marry Yao Moen. "Crying? That's right, I'm so excited. It hurts." Chu Mabei really wanted to hold his head and cry. After a few days of travel, Yao Moen's group finally arrived at Guangning Guest House. Before they got off the carriage, Yi Junqing stopped Yao Moen. "Moen, you promised this prince that you wouldn't marry Chu Mabei." Yi Junqing looked towards Yao Moen with a gloomy expression. "Of course. This consort would rather marry a pig." When Yao Moen said this, Feng Lin and Yin Shui both looked towards Yi Junqing at the same time. Then they lowered their eyes, but their shoulders kept shrugging. "Yao Moen." Yi Junqing's face darkened. When Yao Moen walked into the hall, Ben Lei and the others had tears in their eyes, unable to contain their joy. This was especially true after they found out that Yi Junqing had charged into Nanchang alone for Yao Moen. Everyone looked at Yi Junqing with reverent gazes, so Chu Maxin's appearance made everyone feel that it was very inappropriate. Yao Moen, you're back. Ever since Chu Maxin entered Guangning guest house and stated his intentions, everyone's gazes towards him weren't very friendly. At first, Chu Maxin kindly explained, now that Yi Junqing had married Duan Tingting, Yao Moen naturally had a good husband to return to. My great Shu has a strong army and is as proud as the sun. My imperial older brother is also a dragon among men, so he will definitely soar into the heavens in the future. So how could Yao Moen lose out if she can marry the crown prince of Great Shu? Later, Chu Maxin discovered that these people's skin was thick and hard, so he couldn't be bothered to deal with them. Little Prince came by himself. Where's Shu? Yao Moen had always had special feelings for Chu Maxin, so when Chu Maxin walked in, Yao Moen naturally walked over with a smile. Shu has returned to Lulan. He should be able to rush over in 2 days to attend your wedding. 7 days, that's about right, so you don't have to worry. Chu Maxin had the strongest preconceived notions, so he didn't even ask if Yao Moen was willing or not. Whose wedding? Yao Moen found it funny and couldn't help but help Chu Maxin straighten the slightly creased corners of his clothes. You. Chu Maxin lifted his brows as he said this matter-of-factly. Then may I trouble little prince to tell Moen, if Moen is the bride, then who is the groom? Yao Moen felt a trace of warmth as she looked at Chu Maxin. Unknowingly, Chu Maxin had become much taller than her and his appearance had also become much more handsome. Of course it's the best man in the world. This prince wouldn't even introduce a slightly inferior man to you. Chu Maxin had always felt that there was no one in this world more outstanding than his imperial older brother. Even the best man has a name, right? Yao Moen was rather dissatisfied with the description of the best man. Different people had different opinions. It was just like how in the eyes of 10 people, the best man definitely wasn't just a name. That best man is Great Shu's crown prince, Chu Mabe. What do you think? Said Chu Maxin confidently. Nothing much. Yao Moen's smile was a bit forced. If it was anyone else who said this in front of her, they would definitely be dragged away and beaten to death. This person's worldview wasn't a problem, it was completely ruined. Yao Moen, don't tell this prince you're not willing. When Chu Maxin sensed that Yao Moen wasn't as excited as he had expected, he started to panic. Even though the people in this brothel attacked him every day, Chu Maxin still believed that Yao Moen was wise. Yao Moen definitely wouldn't be reluctant to leave Yi Junqing, who had already betrayed her. It's not that Moen isn't willing, it's that she really isn't willing. Yao Moen cursed silently. What is it? Urged Chu Maxin anxiously. It's that with Moen's current identity, it's not easy to talk about marriage. Yao Moen felt that she couldn't slander Chu Mabe too much in front of Chu Maxin. After all, a child's heart was fragile. Then what's your current identity? Asked Chu Maxin disapprovingly. At the side, Tingyu took this opportunity to walk over. Your Imperial Highness, dinner is ready. Please enjoy. Yao Moen lifted her brows. She felt that Tingyu's answer was already very accurate. Your Imperial Highness. If you like this identity, then that's no problem. Once Imperial older brother ascends the throne, Tingyu can still call you your Imperial Highness. Chu Maxin's words caused everyone to collapse. Yao Moen suddenly felt that it was necessary to see Chu Mabe and understand the ins and outs of the situation. She didn't believe that Chu Mabe, who only knew how to abuse others, would have such tendencies. However, what surprised Yao Moen was that Chu Mabe didn't appear at dinner. In the inner room, Chu Mabe was scratching his head. Yin Xiong, do you think that if this crown prince returned to the capital to see Imperial Father right now, Imperial Father would be able to see this crown prince? Chu Mabe abruptly lifted his eyes and looked towards Yin Xiong seriously. If His Majesty was willing to see Master, then he wouldn't have had austere Prince drug Master's food back then and dragged you over. Yin Xiong didn't want to hurt Chu Maobei's feelings, but this was the truth, so he could only speak the truth. But how can this crown prince say that there's hope? Chu Maobei continued to look towards Yin Xiong expectantly. Master, your tongue's getting too big. Yin Xiong understood Chu Maobei's difficulties. Begging someone that he didn't even want to see in his dreams was a pitiful thing. What was even more pitiful was that this person was a woman, and a very vengeful woman at that. Leave, this crown prince will think about it. Chu Maobei slumped dejectedly on the side of the table. He felt like there was no hope left in his life. Master, the Golden Gate's army is ready to move. Even if there's a request, shouldn't it be Yao Moen that requests you? If it weren't for the fact that the effects of the cartilage powder still hadn't worn off, he would definitely have assumed his usual favorite posture of one rainbow sword, commonly known as standing at attention. With this confidence, Chu Maobei regained his spirits and had Chu Maxin remove the cartilage powder from his body. Then, he stuffed himself with food to replenish his vitality. After 3 days of recuperation, Chu Maobei finally gracefully appeared in front of Yao Moen. Chapter 475. In reality, Yao Moen felt that she should maintain the most basic level of respect towards someone who held the title of Crown Prince of Great Shu. However, when she saw Chu Maobei, Yao Moen really couldn't bring herself to respect him. Especially when she saw the smile on Chu Maobei's face, it was truly too infuriating. Thankfully, as the Grand Empress of Chu, her willpower was second to none. Moen greets Your Highness the Crown Prince. If it weren't for the fact that Jin Men had 300,000 Shu troops, Yao Moen definitely wouldn't have been so polite to Chu Maobei. For this Crown Prince to be able to look at the broken branches and withered leaves in this garden is the good fortune of several lifetimes. Inside the pavilion, Chu Maobei was dressed in a long purple robe. He held a folding fan in his hand, and the surface of the fan was embroidered with a luxuriant Su-core orchid. It accentuated Chu Maobei's already enchanting and handsome face with a hint of elegance. At this moment, Chu Maobei was leisurely and elegantly waving his folding fan. His devilish eyes seemed to inadvertently glance towards Yao Moen. Yao Moen was no longer calm. Please, why are you looking at me when you're talking about the withered branches and withered leaves? Moen doesn't mind Your Highness Crown Prince comparing Moen to a withered leaf. After all, Your Highness Crown Prince's 3 views are different from normal people. However, what Moen is curious about is why Your Highness Crown Prince would muster such a large force to marry a withered leaf like Moen. Yao Moen originally wanted to reason with him and move his emotions, but with Chu Maobei's rude words, she really didn't have any reason to continue being polite. This isn't something that Empress Chu should worry about. Empress Chu only needs to remember that even though you've married this crown prince and obtained the title of Great Shu's crown princess, you should know your own limits. Don't ever think about things that you shouldn't covet. Chu Maobei put away his folding fan. His demonic eyes rose high and his tone was extremely serious. Something you shouldn't covet. Yao Moen suppressed her anger and looked towards Chu Maobei suspiciously. The throne of the future Empress of Great Shu, and this crown prince's body. When Chu Maobei said this, Yao Moen burst into laughter. What are you laughing at? Chu Maobei didn't think his words were funny. Your Highness, did your head get squeezed by the door when you went out? Do you think that Moen would covet the throne of Great Shu Empress? Even if that was the case, why did Moen abandon the good Empress of Chu and run here to become a traitor? As for His Highness the Crown Prince's body. As Yao Moen spoke, she began to size Chu Maobei up. What's wrong with this Crown Prince's body? Chu Maobei raised his eyebrows. This was the capital he had always been proud of. Moen isn't interested in people with weak kidneys. After Yao Moen gave her evaluation, she turned and left in disdain. Kidney deficiency. You said my kidneys are weak. Yao Imo Wan, this crown prince thinks that your mouth is weaker than your kidney. This crown prince's skills in bed are top-notch. Chu Mabe roared in anger. Yin Xiong appeared beside him like a ghost. Your Highness, please be careful of your image. Yin Xiong cautiously reminded. This prince is only reminding her because I'm worried about the consequences. If this matter were to spread out, where would this crown prince's face be? Yin Xiong, are you saying that this prince has kidney deficiency? Chu Mabe said hatefully. When Yin Xiong heard this, beads of cold sweat appeared on the back of his head. This subordinate has never tried. Yin Xiong's honesty exceeded Chu Mabe's expectations. Chu Mabe was rendered speechless. The first confrontation ended in this unhappy atmosphere. Afterwards, Chu Maxin made a deep analysis of his royal brother's words. Imperial brother, you shouldn't have said that Yao Mo Wan is a cripple. Those words are a bit hurtful. Chu Maxin felt that the reason they parted on bad terms was because of his imperial brother's words. But this crown prince is speaking the truth. Even now, there are still people calling her Chu Empress. Also, this crown prince needs to let her know that this crown prince marrying her is the good fortune she has accumulated over several lifetimes, said Chu Mabe in a matter-of-fact tone. Imperial brother, do you think that Yao Mo Wan would love nothing more than to marry you? Asked Chu Maxin. Of course. Otherwise, how could it be called good fortune? Chu Mabe's self-confidence exceeded Chu Maxin's expectations. When he saw Chu Maxin's abnormal expression, Chu Mabe frowned slightly. You don't think so? Chu Maxin forced out a smile. Maxin naturally thinks so as well, but Yao Mo Wan might not be the same. Imperial brother, you should know what kind of people surround Yao Mo Wan all day, right? Chu Maxin felt that only by correcting his imperial brother's attitude would they be able to agree to this matter. What kind of people? Asked Chu Mabe disapprovingly. In terms of appearance, Yan Nansheng is second to none. Even Zhe finds it hard to take a step forward when he sees that guy. In terms of martial arts, Han Jini can defeat a large group of enemies with just a wave of his sleeves. In terms of divine bravery, Yi Junqing can be considered famous. In terms of intelligence, Chu Maxin was in the middle of his objective description when he was interrupted by Chu Mabe. So what if it's intelligence? Have the three of them attack together, said Chu Mabe angrily. Of course, in terms of strategizing, the three of them combined still can't compare to even 1/10,000th of Imperial brothers. However, Imperial brother, Yao Moan doesn't lack this sort of thing. Chu Maxin's words were extremely sincere. When he saw Chu Mabe's silence, Chu Maxin felt that he had achieved his goal of striking down his imperial brother's overly inflated confidence, so he quietly retreated. Master, this subordinate feels that it's better for you to tell Yao Mo Wan the truth. If there's a sacrifice, perhaps Yao Mo Wan will agree to put on a show with Master. Once Chu Maxin left, Yin Xiong expressed his opinion. Sacrifice. Sacrifice what? Chu Mabe subconsciously lowered his head. Master, don't worry. Didn't Yao Mo Wan say that your kidneys are weak? Yin Xiong's words were originally meant to comfort him, but they made Chu Mabe explode with anger. Yin Xiong. This prince will let you know just how strong this prince's kidneys are right now. Chu Mabe probably didn't know that just as he said this, a maid carrying water just happened to pass by the door. Thus, for a long time after that, everyone's topic of conversation was how Chu Mabe had proven his kidneys to Yin Xiong. In the end, Chu Mabe didn't accept Yin Xiong's suggestion. He felt that with his valiant and heroic bearing, it would be as easy as blowing off dust if he wanted to capture a woman's heart. Even if Yao Mo Wan wasn't a normal woman, she was still a woman. Meanwhile, Yao Mo Wan's side was also in a heated discussion. Isn't this Chu Mabe asking to be flirted with? He actually dares to say that master is a broken flower. Feng Lin rolled up his sleeves in righteous indignation, but he only received sidelong glances. It's that he needs to be taught, corrected Yuer solemnly. This consort truly doesn't understand. Since he's so unwilling, why does he insist on marrying this consort? What benefits does marrying this consort bring to him? This was the question that Yao Mo Wan had been struggling with. There's no benefit at all. Ben Lei also found it hard to understand. Could it be that Chu Mabe's residence lacked a tiger to guard it? Ben Lei, what are you trying to say? Yao Mo Wan's eyes shot over coldly. Master, please understand, Ben Lei is only speaking according to the situation and is definitely not making any personal attacks. If there's even the slightest lie, then let heavenly lightning strike Lang Bingxin to death. Ben Lei immediately raised his hand to swear, causing everyone to sigh. Just as everyone was holding their own opinions, they suddenly heard the sound of a knife being sharpened by the table. Prince, your flame soul sword doesn't need to be sharpened to be able to cut through iron like mud. When Ben Lei saw that Yi Juanqing's expression was ashen and his expression was cold, he immediately rushed over to curry favor. This prince has a brilliant plan. Does everyone want to hear it? Yi Juanqing continued to sharpen his knife, his voice as cold as ice. Prince, please speak. As long as master isn't married off, Feng Lin will definitely support you with all my strength, vowed Feng Lin. At this moment, everyone's gazes landed on Yi Juanqing. Chapter 476. In for a penny, in for a pound, kill Chu Mabe. Yi Juanqing explained his brilliant plan in a concise and comprehensive manner. When everyone heard this, the corners of their lips curled up in a strange manner for a moment before collapsing in laughter. This was a brilliant plan. Wasn't this just digging his own grave? Do you think Golden Gate's 300,000 soldiers are vegetarians? That night, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. Occasionally, a cloud would pass by, obscuring a patch of moonlight. What are you thinking about? Yao Mo Wan originally didn't want to walk over, but when she saw Yi Juanqing sitting alone in the pavilion, she felt her heart ache. After the trip to Nanchang, her relationship with Yi Juanqing had become even closer. However, the current situation really didn't allow them to have the time for romance. Moreover, she also didn't want to make this relationship too clear to Yao Mo Wan. After all, she hadn't gotten her revenge yet, so she really didn't have the mood to do so. Mo Wan, do you think this prince is incompetent? The current Yi Juanqing was wearing an azure robe as he leaned against a pillar in the pavilion. His ink-colored hair fluttered in the wind. His handsome face was bathed in moonlight, so beautiful it was suffocating. Why would Prince think this? Yao Mo Wan walked around the pavilion to sit in front of Yi Juanqing. Her cherry lips hooked in a faint smile. Ever since the flag was raised in Mong Yuan, every time there was a crisis, it was you who stood in front of this prince to solve this prince's problems. That's why we were able to reach this point. Now that Chu Mabe is using 300,000 soldiers to force you to marry, this prince can only be anxious, but can't think of a way to save you. Sometimes, this prince thinks, if this prince sacrificed your happiness for revenge, even if this prince killed Yi Hongyi one day, would Moxan be happy? Yi Juanqing's clear voice was heavy with self-blame. As he spoke, he covered his face with his sleeves. When he looked up, Yi Juanqing's tears had already fallen to his cheeks. Mo1 doesn't know if eldest sister will be happy, but Mo1 definitely won't be happy. It's just as Wang Yi said, Mo1 has already done quite a bit for Wang Yi, yet Wang Yi can only rely on Ginger to shed a few tears for Mo1. Yao Mo1's heart was moved, but she suddenly smelled the scent of ginger and her mood immediately turned bad. No, no. There's no ginger ah. While Yi Junqing was choking, Yao Mo Wan turned around and walked out of the pavilion. Moan, don't leave. This prince can explain. Seeing that Yao Moan was angry, Yi Junqing immediately got up and chased after her. Explain what? An explanation as to why Prince isn't sleeping in the middle of the night and is instead amusing Moan. Yao Mo Wan angrily looked towards Yi Junqing, only to see that Yi Junqing's eyes were shining. Although his appearance was pitiful, it made Yao Mo Wan even angrier. This was Ben Lei's idea. He said that this prince's tear is a magic treasure. Moan, this prince didn't want to lie to you, but Chu Mabe is coming with such a strong momentum. This prince was really afraid that you would agree to his request. Regardless of whether you believe it or not, this prince can give up on Mang Yuan, give up on Ji Zhou, give up on revenge, but this prince can't give up on you. As Yi Junqing spoke, his tears flowed uncontrollably. He blinked non-stop and even wiped his tears with his sleeve. The result was obvious. Your Highness, do you need to be so emotional? Based on Yao Mo Wan's understanding of Yi Junqing, although these tears were fake, Yi Junqing had never been one to use flowery words. That was why his words were very effective on Yao Mo Wan. This prince doesn't want to cry, but this prince can't stop awe. Yi Junqing already had no time to care about Yao Mo Wan's expression as he rubbed his eyes non-stop. Your Highness. Your Highness, are you all right? Yao Mo Wan panicked when she sensed Yi Junqing's abnormality. She reached out to pull away the sleeve that Yi Junqing was using to rub his eyes. Under the moonlight, Yao Mo Wan could clearly see that Yi Junqing's eyes were swollen like walnuts. It hurts. Moan, this prince's eyes hurt. Thus, the next day, Yi Junqing's eyes were wrapped in white gauze and he couldn't take care of himself. As for Ben Lei, he was sent to sweep the latrines for 3 months. After brewing for 2 days, Chu Mabe once again appeared in front of Yao Mo Wan. At this time, our empress was holding Fluffy in a daze. It's really strange. Older sister likes mice, but younger sister likes cats. Are you sure that you and Yao Mo Axayan were born from the same mother's womb? Chu Mabe was still wearing his purple robes. His eyes were less arrogant than before, but more gentle and refined. What else could it be? Yao Mo Wan put away her thoughts and lowered her eyes to stroke Fluffy's fur. This prince has always felt that Yao Mo Axayan's mother should be a gentle, virtuous, wise and steady young lady of a large family. To be able to raise such an outstanding daughter, her mother definitely wasn't an ordinary person. Then what about this consort's mother? Yao Mo Wan had to admit that Chu Mabe's topic had indeed piqued her interest. Pardon my rudeness, but has Empress Chu's mother ever learned witchcraft? As soon as Chu Mabe asked this, Yao Mo Wan immediately released her cat to scratch people. Fuck. He actually dared to call her mother a witch. You're the witch, your whole family is witches. Empress Chu, why get angry? This prince is praising you. Chu Mabe didn't mind and slowly sat down on the opposite side of the stone table to pick up the teapot. Oh. Yao Mo Wan didn't agree. Empress Chu, haven't you heard that good people don't pay with their lives, but scourges live for 1,000 years? Trust this prince, you'll definitely live to 100 years old. In Yao Mo Wan's impression, this was the first time Chu Mabe had ever praised her. Although the true meaning of this sentence was still up for debate, Yao Mo Wan still resisted the urge to explode. You flatter me. Compared to your Highness Crown Prince, Mo Wan's life is considered short, said Yao Mo Wan indifferently. Cough. That. Yao Mo Wan, what do you think of this prince? It was very hard for Chu Mabe to directly call her Mo Wan. What aspect is Crown Prince talking about? As Yao Mo Wan spoke, Her eyes subconsciously glanced towards Chu Mabei's lower body. "There's definitely no problem with this prince's aspect, there's no need to comment," said Chu Mabei righteously. "Mo1 believes you. Yin Xiong already told everyone." Yao Mo1 snickered. "Then tell me, is there anything about this prince's body that you're not satisfied with?" Chu Mabei felt like he was making things difficult for Yao Mo1. Chapter 477. This is also what this consort wants to know. Unfortunately, even now, this consort still doesn't understand. Yao Moan shook her head helplessly. "Perhaps this subordinate can try," said Yin Shui after a moment of hesitation. "Yin Shui, this consort doesn't want to make things difficult for you." Yao Moan looked towards Yin Shui meaningfully. "He's this subordinate's older brother after all. If he can let bygones be bygones, Yin Shui would have one less worry to worry about," replied Yin Shui quietly. At dinner, Yao Moan personally carried the food into Yi Juanqing's room. "I heard from Yuer that Prince hasn't gone out all day." Yao Moan's voice gradually softened as she looked at Yi Juanqing, who was lying on the bed like a corpse with his eyes covered. However, when Yi Juanqing heard Yao Moan's voice, he immediately twisted his body over. Since Prince doesn't want to see Moan this much, then Moan should just agree to Chu Mabei and quickly marry into Great Shu. Yao Moan sighed, then placed the food on the table and turned to leave. "You didn't agree to Chu Mabei's request. That Ben Lei said that you and Chu Mabei were chatting and laughing in the back garden." Yi Juanqing suddenly understood and immediately got up to search for Yao Moan. "Are your eyes better? What did the imperial physician say?" Yao Moan couldn't bear to complain when she saw Yi Juanqing like this. She walked over to the table and took out the ginseng porridge from the food box. She walked over to Yi Juanqing and scooped up a spoonful. "Moan, if I can't see you when I open my eyes again, this prince is willing to be blind for the rest of my life." At some point, Yao Moan had entered Yi Juanqing's heart. He knew that missing out on Yao Moxin would be a lifelong regret, but if he missed out on Yao Moan, how could he continue living? "Prince, don't worry. Moan doesn't want to jump into a pit of fire unless it's absolutely necessary. Also, Moan is two-faced, greedy, and fierce. How could Chu Mabei possibly like Moan?" Yao Moan truly felt that these were merits, but she believed that in the eyes of most men, these were flaws that they couldn't accept. "Moan, as long as you're by this prince's side, this prince swears that no matter what price I have to pay, I'll help you reclaim Great Chu." Yi Juanqing vowed. Yao Moan smiled bitterly. "Juanqing, unknowingly, your original intention has changed from getting revenge for Moxin. So, Moxin isn't that important in your heart anymore, right?" Yao Moan had to admit that she was a contradictory person. When Yi Juanqing was infatuated with the Yao Moxin of the past, she would get angry and feel bad for Yi Juanqing. However, when she realized that the name Yao Moxin was gradually fading from Yi Juanqing's heart, she actually felt a little sad. Just at this moment, Ben Lei walked in, of all people. "You're back. You didn't even greet me when you saw me." Ben Lei probably hadn't expected that Yao Mo1 would be here, so he immediately tried to sneak out but was caught red-handed by Yao Mo1. Subordinate Ben Lei kowtows in salute to master. Ben Lei looked towards Yao Mo1 guiltily and couldn't help but choke. "Come over and serve Prince's meal." Yao Mo1 slowly got up, then handed the porcelain bowl to Ben Lei. On the bed, Yi Juanqing hadn't finished speaking, but since Ben Lei was present, it wasn't appropriate for him to continue. Having received the order, Ben Lei attentively received the porcelain bowl and placed it beside the bed. "That's right, Li Jun was looking for you earlier. After Prince finishes eating, you should go over," said Yao Moan absent-mindedly. "Li Jun was looking for this subordinate for something?" asked Ben Lei with a blank expression. It's nothing major. Li Juan said that the esteemed prince's eyes can't be treated and urgently needs a new pair of eyes. Chapter 478. Yi Hongyi really isn't Yi Haotian's son. He's just the evil spawn born from Luo Bin and Zhuang Xiaorong. Nameless had no intention of hiding anything. Since he's not Yi Haotian's son, why did you help him attack Yi Junqing? Asked Chu Shi. Forgive Nameless for not being able to answer this question. Nameless can only tell you that Yi Junqing has fallen in love with Yao Moan and their fates clash. Adding on the fact that Yao Moan's fate is that of a jinx, if she is allowed to be with Yi Junqing, then Yi Junqing will definitely not have a good end. So you let our Mo Bei marry that jinx? Chu Shi looked towards Nameless angrily. King Chu, don't be impatient. Although Yao Moan's fate is different, it's nephew Mo Bei's fate. If nephew Mo Bei can receive Yao Moan's help, he'll definitely shine brilliantly in the future. Wu Ming didn't feel like he was lying to Chu Shi. He was just using a very tactful method to explain. However, Chu Shi didn't think so. Later on, when he heard another version of the story, he decisively tossed Nameless out of his grave and whipped him for 3 days and 3 nights. It turned out that it wasn't that Chu Maobei's fate was compatible with Yao Moan's, but that Chu Maobei's fate was strong enough to suppress Yao Moan. We understand our son. Mo Bei definitely won't marry Yao Moan. At this moment, Chu Shi didn't have time to think about fate. He just wanted to know more about the outside world. King Chu can be at ease about this. Even if nephew Mo Bei isn't willing, Yao Moan will think of a way to make him willing. Otherwise, with the 300,000 troops of the Golden Gate, it'll only take a blink of an eye for them to attack from Mongyuan to Guangning. Nameless wasn't worried about this at all. In order to separate Yao Moan and Yi Junqing, you've actually put in so much effort. Nameless, if you're unwilling to tell us the truth, then we won't force you. But if you're still trying to deceive us with lies like the birth chart, then you can leave. As the monarch of the strongest country on this continent, Chu Shi's brain wasn't for show. Ahem. Regardless of whether King Chu believes it or not, Nameless is indeed doing this out of consideration for Yi Junqing, but more importantly, Nameless will use Chu Maobei and Yao Moan's wedding to invite the monarchs of Great Qi, Great Xia, Great Zhou, Nanxiang, and Lulan to Great Shu. At that time, Nameless' lips curved as he looked meaningfully at Chu Shi, then he raised his cup and drank. Wu Ming, when we helped you capture Yao Moan, it was because we admired your loyalty to Chu. In addition to the courageous sword and our sworn brotherhood, we should help you no matter what. Just now, when we found out that Yi Hongyi wasn't Yi Haotian's biological son, we thought that you wanted to use the Son of Heaven to control the feudal vassals and dominate a region. But now, we feel that you only wish for the world to be in chaos. What do you want to do? Kill the monarchs of the 7 countries and unify the world. Chu Shi felt that it was not wrong for people to have ambitions, but if they became delusional because of this, they would really be incurable. So what? It was true that John Doe did not have such great ambitions, but someone else did. If that's what you really think, then we will give you 4 words: digging your own grave. Chu Shi heavily put down his wine cup, then closed his eyes and didn't say anything else. People who walk different paths can't make plans together. But don't worry, unless it's absolutely necessary, Wu Ming will naturally ensure your safety. Wu Ming didn't understand why when he felt that he was being extremely benevolent to others, others would always think that he was a weasel worshipping a chicken. In reality, Chu Maobei didn't really want to capture Yao Moan's heart. He just wanted to use his boundless charm to make Yao Moan kneel at his feet without reservation. Then when Yao Moan loved him to the point of hovering between life and death, he would mercilessly kick Yao Moan away. Only then would he be able to resolve the hatred in his heart. Master, Yin Xiong feels that you should change the white chrysanthemums to roses. As he looked at the bouquet of white chrysanthemums in Chu Maobei's hands, Yin Xiong suddenly had the urge to silently mourn for him. What's wrong with these flowers? Chu Maobei was undoubtedly talented and wise, but when it came to wooing women, he was extremely useless. Because in the past, it had always been women who chased after him. As for him, he had only ever had feelings for one woman, and that was the Empress of Chu, Yao Maxin. Unfortunately, his heart had always been towards the bright moon, but the bright moon shines on a ditch. Reality had also proven this point. Yi Hongyi was indeed a ditch. This subordinate was only suggesting. Yin Xiong hesitated for a moment but didn't plan on being nosy. I wonder if Imperial Father is doing well. This crown prince will definitely capture Yao Moen tomorrow, said Chu Maobei solemnly. Then he threw the flowers onto the table and got up to return to his bedroom. Meanwhile, Yin Xiong looked at the white chrysanthemums on the table, then looked at Chu Maobei's disappearing figure. A trace of guilt flashed through his eyes. I've let Master down. Yin Xiong only has one younger sister. The next day, when Chu Maobei brought the white chrysanthemums to Yao Moen's attitude improved a lot as expected. To be able to receive flowers from Your Highness Crown Prince is Moen's good fortune. In reality, as long as Your Highness Crown Prince sincerely proposes to Moen, how could Moen possibly give up on an ideal husband like Your Highness Crown Prince? Yao Moen accepted the white chrysanthemums Chu Maobei brought over. The corners of her lips curled up in a very strange way, but her expression was still very happy. Propose. Chu Maobei lifted his brows and looked towards Yao Moen suspiciously. Oh, Great Shu doesn't have this kind of custom. In Nanxiang, whenever a man likes a woman, he will prepare a ring with a pebble-sized gem, kneel on one knee, and ask the woman to marry him. If the woman agrees, she will wear the ring, explained Yao Moen carefully. Then what you're saying is, you want this crown prince to kneel on one knee and propose to you? Yao Moen, don't push your luck. Chu Maobei had always felt that there was gold under a man's knees. In his entire life, he had only ever knelt before Imperial Father. If you're not willing to propose, then that means you're not sincere. Moen has already missed once, so I don't want to make the same mistake a second time. Your Highness Crown Prince, please leave. Yao Moen's expression abruptly changed as she casually tossed the white chrysanthemums onto the table and spoke coldly. Chu Maobei couldn't back down now. It had already been half a month since he left the capital, so he really couldn't delay any longer. However, if he knelt, what face would he have left? Just as Chu Maobei lost his patience and was about to use force, Yao Moen's voice drifted over. This consort is talking about returning to Jinmen. Doesn't Your Highness Crown Prince have an army of 300,000? Why don't you try sending troops and see if Moen is afraid or not? Yao Moen seemed to have seen through Chu Maobei's intentions and immediately sealed his mouth. Thus, after a moment of silence, Chu Maobei abruptly turned around and looked towards Yao Moen with a hint of coldness in his eyes. If this crown prince kneels and proposes, will you agree? Chu Maobei had to confirm this. He believed in his own charm, but he didn't believe in Yao Moen's character. Cough. Of course, Moen still wholeheartedly wants to become Great Shu's crown prince consort. Yao Moen nodded heavily. All right. Tomorrow after breakfast, we'll do it here. Chu Maobei agreed decisively and turned to leave. Yin Shui only appeared by Yao Moen's side after Chu Maobei had walked far away. Master, Yin Shui thought that even if you didn't agree, Chu Maobei wouldn't dare to recklessly send troops to Mangyuan. When Yin Xiong had revealed the truth, Yin Shui had analyzed the pros and cons. Of course he wouldn't dare. With his wisdom, he could naturally see that the whole thing was illogical. No matter how much the king of Shu liked me, he wouldn't allow his precious son to marry a woman with the title of Empress of Chu. Of course, the king of Shu might not have a good impression of me either. Therefore, I dare to assert that something has happened to Great Shu's imperial city. In other words, Chu Mabe might not have the final say on whether or not the Golden Gates will send troops. Yao Moan's lips curled into a smile as a shrewd light flashed through her eyes. Since Master knows this, why did you agree to Chu Mabe's request? Yin Shui didn't understand. Because Ben Gong wants to know what exactly Nameless is selling in his gourd. Yao Moan's fingers subconsciously tightened and her eyes turned cold. John Doe. Why would Master think of that person? Yin Shui looked towards Yao Moan suspiciously. Chapter 479. When this consort was captured by Chu Shi, he was the one who personally told this consort that he and Nameless were sworn brothers. He also said that Nameless had done Great Shu a favor and saved his life. Later, when we rushed to the underground palace from Nanxiang, didn't that damn ladyboy Bai Zhan also say that Nameless and the 3 vice-commandants weren't in the underground palace? Adding on the fact that Chu Mabe went to Guangning to propose marriage, this consort is certain that Nameless is in Shu Palace, said Yao Moan solemnly. So Master wants to meet Nameless. Yin Shui suddenly realized that her master's thoughts were meticulous and not something she could compare to. With the current situation, this consort has no other choice but to agree to Chu Mabe's proposal. Even if Nameless loses his patience and waves his hand, we'll still be attacked from both sides. With our current strength, we won't be able to defend against the Shu army. Yao Moan smiled bitterly. She had been too optimistic at the time. The current situation was completely different from what she had expected. Master, this subordinate doesn't understand. Isn't Nameless protecting Yi Hongyi? If he had this chance, why would he create a marriage alliance? Wouldn't it be easier to just send troops? Asked Yin Shui in confusion. This is also the reason why this consort wants to meet Nameless. Yao Moan's voice gradually turned cold. If Nameless really was secretly manipulating this, then Yao Moan was certain that Nameless definitely wasn't trying to use the Son of Heaven to command the nobles. He was definitely hiding an even greater secret. Master, if you agree to Chu Mabe's proposal, shouldn't you notify Prince first? Suggested Yin Shui. She knew that Yao Moan had already made up her mind. You can't. Only by doing something unexpected can you win. If John Doe knows that I'm prepared, he will definitely alert the enemy. Yao Moan's voice was filled with helplessness. Even if she didn't want to have this kind of misunderstanding with Yi Junqing, there was nothing she could do. That night, when Chu Maxin handed Chu Mabe a ring the size of a pebble, he had a conflicted expression on his face. Maxin, there's no need to be like this. It's just kneeling on one knee. Your imperial brother can still endure it. Chu Mabe knew that Chu Maxin was worried for him and felt very gratified. He hadn't doted on him for over a decade in vain. Imperial older brother, do you think Yao Moan will find this gem too small? I'll go look around and see if there's a bigger one. Chu Maxin said seriously, then turned to leave. All that was left was Chu Mabe, who was standing at the side of the table, fuming with rage. Yin Xiong. Once Chu Maxin left, Chu Mabe called out to Yin Xiong. This subordinate is here, Yin Xiong said respectfully. Where is the thing this prince asked you to prepare? By the time Chu Mabe opened his mouth, Yin Xiong had already placed a simulated green glass ball on the table along with the resin. Master, this is not good, right? When Yin Xiong saw Chu Mabe forcefully picking at the emerald on the ring, he couldn't help but choke. This scene was truly too beautiful. The dignified crown prince of Great Shu, who was handsome and elegant, was now sweating profusely because of a gemstone. Those who knew that Chu Mabe didn't want to let Yao Moan get away with it, but those who didn't would think that he was lacking money. Although Yao Moan wanted to hide it from Yi Junqing, she didn't plan on hiding it from Fengyu, Lei, and Dian. After all, Yao Moan trusted her subordinates very much. However, there was one exception. Thus, preposterous. How could Master agree to Chu Maobei's request? How infuriating. What a shameless fellow. Inside the room, Ben Lei was currently scooping soup for Yi Junqing as he muttered to himself. Master, it's better if you rest first. Ben Lei will go. Ben Lei spread his arms, his eyes filled with unconcealable anxiety and unease. Ben Lei, what happened? It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Yi Junqing could tell what kind of shit Ben Lei was about to shit just by looking at him. Although the analogy wasn't elegant, it was appropriate. It's nothing. Prince, just wait, Ben Lei will go right now. Before Ben Lei could finish speaking, Yi Junqing dragged him back. Did something happen to Moan? The clear voice was filled with unconcealable worry. Yi Junqing's brows were tightly furrowed and his eyes were sharp. Master has no idea how well she's doing, how could something happen to her? Prince, you're worrying too much. Ben Lei forced a smile, but his forehead was already covered in cold sweat. Then this prince will go find her. Yi Junqing abruptly shook off Ben Lei and turned to leave, but Ben Lei still fearlessly blocked his way. Prince. Why must you go? Hey! Master has already agreed to marry Chu Maobei. Right now, Chu Maobei is proposing in Master's room. If Prince goes, you'll only be making things difficult for yourself. Ben Lei truly couldn't take it anymore, so he decided to just spill the beans. What did you say? Say it again. Yi Junqing grabbed Ben Lei's collar with both hands as his scarlet eyes shot out an icy chill. Chapter 480. Your Highness. Are your eyes all right? While Ben Lei was panicking, he could clearly see that Yi Junqing's eyes were bloodshot. They were as red as blood. This prince is asking you. Has Yao Moan really agreed to marry Chu Maobei? Yi Junqing pursed his lips and tightened his grip. Your Highness, Master, she. Ben Lei found it hard to speak. As he shook his head, Yi Junqing threw him to the ground. As he watched Yi Junqing rush out of the room, Ben Lei slapped his thigh. This was going to throw the world into chaos. Inside Yao Moan's room, Chu Maobei's lips twitched for an entire hour. Your Highness, are you going to beg or not? This consort is waiting. Yao Moan lazily leaned against the back of the chair as she flipped her slender fingers in front of her eyes. When she looked up, Chu Maobei was still standing there like a zombie. On both sides, Tingyu, Yin Shui, Feng, Yu, Lei, and Dian were all standing there solemnly. Yao Moan. You didn't say that there would be this many people watching. Chu Maobei gritted his teeth as he growled. The veins on his forehead bulged as if they were about to explode. Watching? No, they're not here to watch. They're all witnesses to this marriage proposal. This kind of happy moment should naturally be shared with everyone. The most infuriating thing was that Yao Moan still had a cat nestled in her arms. With Chu Maobei kneeling, even that cat benefited. This crown prince requests to clear the area, said Chu Maobei hatefully. That's impossible. If your highness hasn't thought it through, then this consort won't force it. After all, this consort hasn't reached the point where I can't get married. Tingyu, prepare breakfast, said Yao Moan impatiently. At the side, Chu Maxin saw that the situation wasn't good and immediately jogged over to Chu Maobei. Imperial older brother, a real man knows when to yield and when to stand tall. At this critical juncture, you can't shrink back. Chu Maxin clenched his fists and made a charging gesture. It's not that your imperial older brother can't yield, but this is a bit too thorough. Chu Mabe didn't think much of it. Imperial older brother. Chu Maxin blinked innocently as he looked towards Chu Mabe seriously. What? Chu Mabe felt that he needed to reconsider. If he knelt now, he might not be able to recover the dignity he lost in this lifetime. Sorry. Chu Mabe unscrupulously kicked Chu Mabe's left knee. Chu Mabe reflexively knelt. Chu Maxin. Just as Chu Mabe was about to get up, Chu Maxin stopped him. Brother Emperor, you've already knelt down. If you don't say something, you'll have knelt for nothing. Chu Maxin kindly reminded him. At this moment, Chu Mabe really wanted to cry. Was this still the little brother he had doted on since he was young? Chu Mabe, wasn't this a... After Chu Mabe reflected on his painful experience, he finally let out a sigh of relief and took out a ring from his pocket. Yao Moen, marry this crown prince. Chu Mabe had practiced this sentence countless times last night before he was able to say it out loud. Mo Chin, Chu, Chin, I, Yao, Mo, I, Yi, as, I, as, Mo. Yao Moen. Just as Chu Mabe was about to get up, he was enlightened by Chu Maxin. Miss Moen, I wonder if this one has the honor of marrying a woman as beautiful as you? Chu Mabe felt all the goosebumps on his body disappear in this instant. Ahem. Let this consort consider it. Whether it was her past life or this life, Yao Moen felt that she had suffered quite a bit at Chu Mabe's hands. Thus, she definitely wouldn't waste a chance to take revenge. You. Just as Chu Mabe was about to go berserk, Chu Maxin pressed down on Chu Mabe's shoulders and blinked at Yao Moen. Yao Moen, imperial older brother, is sincere. When Yao Moen saw Chu Maxin's expression, she finally felt that perhaps she shouldn't insult his idol too much in front of him. She's doing this for herself. Don't forget, you already have a main consort. Then what right do you have to stop Yao Moen? Yi Junqing, don't go too far. Chu Maxin looked towards Yi Junqing in displeasure as he spoke angrily. Yi Junqing abruptly turned to look at Chu Maxin coldly. At the side, Chu Mabe naturally wouldn't allow anyone to bully his younger brother like this. He immediately took 2 steps forward and stood in front of Chu Maxin. Since the esteemed prince has come, then please bear witness for this crown prince. Mabe swears to the heavens that he will treat Moen like a pearl and treasure for the rest of his life and will love you for the rest of his life. Moen, please marry Mabe. Chu Mabe knelt down on one knee in front of Yao Moen right in front of Yi Junqing. He raised the ring with both hands, his deep eyes bursting with intense love. The room fell silent. Everyone's gazes landed on Yao Moen as they broke out into a cold sweat. Moen. Yi Junqing turned to look towards Yao Moen. His heart was in his chest. Chapter 481. Moen has never seen such a large piece of jade before. Your Highness is too considerate. Yao Moen slowly got up and took the ring with trembling hands. Her lips curved into an unnatural smile. When Chu Mabe heard this, a drop of cold sweat appeared on the back of his head. Jade. He was trying to imitate a gemstone. There was a huge difference between the two. Yao Moen. You can't marry him. In just a moment, Yi Junqing's eyes had already turned scarlet and the veins on his forehead bulged. Whether or not I can or not isn't up to you to decide. Chu Mabe slowly stood up from the ground and looked towards Yi Junqing provocatively. Perhaps no one knew that Chu Mabe was also extremely angry right now. Chu Mabe. This prince will kill you. Just as Yi Junqing was about to attack, Yao Moen stepped in front of Chu Mabe. Ben Lei, His Highness's eyes have just recovered and it's not easy for him to move. help His Highness back to rest. This consort will bring an imperial physician to visit His Highness later. Even though Ben Lei had been chanting, can't see me, 10,000 times at the door, Yao Moen still called his name. Moen, are you really going to marry him? Even if Junqing is begging you. Yi Junqing clenched his teeth as tears slid down the corners of his eyes. Ben Lei. Do you want this consort to repeat it a second time? Yao Moen stared into Yi Junqing's eyes with heartache. Prince. Ben Lei will help you back home to eat. Ben Lei carefully moved closer to Yi Junqing and said this in a low voice. Yi Junqing stared at Yao Moen deeply for a long time, then left angrily. Your Highness. When Yi Junqing left, Tingyu walked over to Yao Moen worriedly. All of you can withdraw. This consort has something to say to His Highness the Crown Prince. Yao Moen restrained the extreme sorrow in her eyes and gave this order. Wind, rain, thunder, and lightning tactfully withdrew. Tingyu hesitated for a moment, then also left with Chu Maxin. The moment the door closed, Yao Moen turned indifferently and sat down at the table, occasionally stroking the ring on her hand. Yao Moen, this crown prince knows that you're not in a good mood right now, but time is limited. This crown prince will give you 3 days to deal with your funeral, chores. After that, follow this crown prince back to Great Shu's capital to complete the wedding. In reality, everyone knew about Yao Moen and Yi Junqing's ambiguous relationship. Everyone had thought that they would end up together. It wasn't until Yi Junqing publicly married Duan Tingting that everyone stopped speculating. Does Your Highness Crown Prince think that Moen has already fallen to the point of being worthless, or is it that Great Shu really can't take out a small emerald as a betrothal gift? If it was the first situation, then His Highness the Crown Prince was truly unwise. Kneeling to a worthless woman like Moen, how high could His Highness's social status be? If it's the second situation, then Moen is truly worried about Great Shu's current situation. Yao Moen played with the ring on her finger. With a bit of force, the sparkling and translucent glass bead was pulled out of the ring. Cough cough. Medicine can be taken indiscriminately, but words cannot be spoken indiscriminately. Is this glass? This is an emerald. Corrected Chu Mabe solemnly. Does Your Highness the Crown Prince think that Moen, as the great owner of Yao Manifest business, can't even tell the difference between emerald and glass? Chu Mabe, aren't you underestimating Moen too much? Yao Moen let out a light sigh as she looked towards Chu Mabe meaningfully with her clear eyes. It really is an emerald. Just as Chu Mabe was about to explain, Yao Moen's cold gaze drifted over. Then, can this crown prince say that this is Chu Maxin's masterpiece? Asked Chu Mabe awkwardly with a shrug. Can this consort say that I don't believe it? Yao Moen's voice gradually turned cold. Ahem, although the item is flawed, this crown prince's sincerity is genuine. Chu Mabe lifted his brows. Since he'd been seen through, he might as well admit it. Oh. In Moen's opinion, Your Highness the Crown Prince's sincerity isn't even as genuine as this glass bead. Yao Moen immediately snapped at Chu Mabe. Chu Mabe naturally understood the meaning behind Yao Moen's words. His gaze turned slightly cold as he turned to sit across from Yao Moen. Empress Chu, this Crown Prince doesn't quite understand what you're saying. Chu Mabe lifted his brows probingly. Moen really doesn't need to use her brain to guess what Your Highness the Crown Prince feels towards Moen. Not to mention love, even liking is extremely far-fetched. Perhaps in Your Highness the Crown Prince's eyes, Moen isn't even pleasing to the eye, yet Your Highness the Crown Prince is actually making such a big fuss about wanting to marry Moen. If Moen believes that there's nothing fishy going on, then Moen is an idiot. Yao Moen threw the ring onto the table with a cold smile. Since Empress Chu saw through the problem, why did you agree to this Crown Prince's proposal? Chu Mabe suddenly felt that the only thing cute about Yao Moen was that she knew her own limits. This is what Moen was going to say next. In order to cooperate with Your Highness the Crown Prince, Moen ruined her own reputation. How does Your Highness plan on repaying Moen for this favor? Yao Moen took a sip of tea as she looked towards Chu Mabe with determination. What do you mean ruined your own reputation? Is marrying this crown prince going to ruin your reputation? Chu Mabe didn't like hearing this. Different people have different opinions on this matter. Your Highness the Crown Prince thinks that Moen is taking advantage of you, but you don't know that there are some benefits that Moen doesn't want even if you give them for free. Let's get straight to the point. Moen can act with you, but there's one thing that Moen needs to know about no matter what Your Highness the Crown Prince does during this trip to Great Shu. If Moen does anything, Your Highness the Crown Prince can't interfere. Yao Moen restrained the humor in her eyes and suggested solemnly. This isn't fair. If you do anything to harm my Great Shu, is this Crown Prince going to just stand by and watch? Chu Mabe didn't agree. You're in Great Shu's imperial city. Your Highness the Crown Prince thinks that Moen can do anything to harm Great Shu. You've really overestimated Moen. Also, if Moen has the intention to become enemies with Great Shu, why do you need to be so honest and direct? Yao Moen felt that Chu Mabe was gauging the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a petty person. This crown prince can agree to your conditions, but the prerequisite is that you can't do anything to harm Great Shu. Otherwise, don't blame this crown prince for falling out. Towards someone who knew Yao Moen's character very well, Chu Mabe felt that it was necessary for him to speak his mind. Of course. Yao Moen nodded slightly. There's still one more thing this crown prince doesn't understand. Since you already knew this crown prince's intentions, why did you make this crown prince propose to you? Chu Mabe lifted his brows as he looked towards Yao Moen. If it weren't for this, how could Moen have made the grand crown prince of Great Shu kneel in front of Moen? The opportunity doesn't come twice, said Yao Moen helplessly. If she had known that Yi Junqing would appear at that time, she definitely wouldn't have taken advantage of Chu Mabe. In the end, she might have been the one who had shot herself in the foot. Yao Moen thought this way. Yao Moen. Chu Mabe shot to his feet, his demonic eyes shooting out extreme coldness. Right at this time, Ben Lei charged in like a madman. Master, it's bad. Prince has gone to the barracks and said that he's going to lead the army to attack the Golden Gates, reported Ben Lei, his face ashen. What? What? Yao Moen and Chu Mabe stood up at the same time and looked towards Ben Lei in disbelief. You incompetent bastard. Just as Chu Mabe was berating him, Yao Moen abruptly turned around, her sinister gaze shooting towards Chu Mabe like a sharp arrow. In the face of Yi Junqing and hatred, she had chosen to take revenge without hesitation. Compared to Yi Junqing's determination to charge into Nanchang alone for her, her love was still too shallow. Yao Moen suddenly felt that perhaps for a person who harbored extreme hatred, love was too extravagant. Master, His Highness has arrived. Yi Junqing's speed had surpassed Yin Shui's expectations. It was clear that she had underestimated the anger in Yi Junqing's heart. Withdraw. Yao Moen let out a long sigh. Her eyes were stern as she stood in front of the city gate to Mong Yuan, blocking the way. The rumbling sound of the horse's hooves rolled up a cloud of dust, and the azure figure galloped through the sky full of dust. Yug, the maroon horse abruptly raised its front hooves. On the horse's back, the handsome face that had been stained with hardships revealed a trace of astonishment. Moen. Once the horse steadied itself, Yi Junqing waved his hand to stop the cavalry behind him. Then he dismounted and walked to Yao Moen. In the span of a day and a night, Yi Junqing seemed to have changed into a completely different person. His long hair was messy, his beard was black, his skin was dark yellow, his eyes were red, and his entire body was covered in dust. It was heartbreaking to see him. Does Prince not consider the consequences of his actions? Yao Moan sounded like she was about to cry and her eyes were misty. Moan, this prince won't let you marry Chu Maobei. No matter what price I have to pay, this prince won't let you marry him. Yi Junqing clenched his teeth and clenched his fists so tightly that they made cracking sounds. Marrying Chu Maobei is Moan's own decision. Why does Prince have to? No. You're doing this for Mang Yuan, for Ji Province, for Guangning, for this prince. Moan, you've done so many things for this prince. From the beginning at Guan Osprey Palace to raising the flag in Mang Yuan, you've already sacrificed enough for this prince. If this prince were to give up happiness as well, then how would this prince have the face to continue living? Even if I die, I won't have the face to see Ma Xin again. This time, even if this prince has to give up this life, I won't let you be threatened by Chu Maobei. Moan, believe in this prince. As long as you're by this prince's side, this prince won't lose. Yi Junqing's eyes were brimming with tears. When his hand landed on Yao Moan's shoulder, it trembled. It's as Prince says. Moan has planned for Prince until now, so it can be said that Prince owes Moan a favor. Moan only requests one thing from Prince, please let Moan leave. Yao Moan's lips were slightly pursed as her jade fingers slowly moved Yi Junqing's hand away from her shoulder. Moan, you don't believe in this prince. Yi Junqing's gaze moved from his arm to Yao Moan's face. His voice was filled with unconcealable sorrow. Moan believes in Prince. She has always believed that in this world, only Prince can get revenge for eldest sister. Only Prince can steal Yi Hongyi's empire and make him wish he was dead. That's why Moan had placed all her hopes on Prince from the very beginning. Moan knew that with Prince's deep feelings for eldest sister, Moan would definitely fulfill Moan's wish. Since Prince knows how much effort Moan has put into this path, then shouldn't Prince not disappoint Moan? If love wasn't pure, then there was no need to love. This prince won't disappoint you. Moan, even if you didn't marry Chu Maobei, this prince would still attack Chu City and tear Yi Hongyi to pieces. Yi Junqing frantically patted Yao Moan's shoulder, his eyes filled with fear. But Moan is tired. Moan really doesn't want to continue walking this path anymore. Now that Moan has found her husband, she wants to live a peaceful life. Moan believes that even if Moan isn't around, Prince will definitely walk this path well. Moan also believes that eldest sister will protect Prince from the underworld and personally kill that animal Yi Hongyi. Yao Moan's tears fell like pearls from a broken necklace. Even she felt her heart ache for these hurtful words, so how could Yi Junqing bear it? However, she couldn't just watch as she became a stumbling block in Yi Junqing's path. If her existence would cause Yi Junqing to lose his sense of propriety, then perhaps she should consider leaving. Impossible. Moan, you want to tell Junqing that the person you love is Chu Maobei. You want to leave Junqing and go to Great Shu, never to return. Yi Junqing's eyes became misty and his hands trembled as he held Yao Moan's shoulders. He didn't believe that these were Yao Moan's words. If the person Yao Moan loved was Chu Maobei, then what was the point of risking life and death with Yao Moan these past few days? Moan just wants to tell Prince that marrying Chu Maobei is the only thing Moan has wanted to do for herself. I beg Prince to fulfill this wish. Yao Moan indifferently retreated and dodged Yi Junqing's arms. Her deep eyes shone with a resolute light. Impossible, this is impossible. Yi Junqing stood there alone, his eyes bloodshot and his body couldn't help but sway. Chapter 483. In this world, Moan might not be able to find another man who treats Moan as well as Chu Maobei. Moan won't miss him. In 2 days, Moen will follow Chu Mabe back to Great Shu. Prince, take care. Yao Moen tried her best to convince herself not to care about Yi Juanqing's tears as she turned around indifferently. Moen, you're leaving just like this, without even looking back. Yi Juanqing choked with sobs as his outstretched hand froze in midair. His mind went blank and the entire world sank into darkness. Master, Prince has fainted. Almost at the same time, Yin Shui suddenly appeared and caught Yi Juanqing, who was on the verge of collapsing, in her arms. She looked towards Yao Moen with confusion in her eyes. In the shadows, Feng Yu, Lei Dian, and Ben Lei looked at each other silently. In Meng Yuan guest house, Yao Moen placed the towel on Yi Juanqing's forehead. Her brows were tightly furrowed. She hadn't slept all night and her eyes were bloodshot. Master, you should go back and rest. Yuer is just outside, so you should let Yuer take care of Prince, suggested Yin Shui worriedly when she saw Yao Moen's haggard expression. Yin Shui, were this consort's words too heavy? Yao Moen pursed her lips mournfully as a ripple appeared in her eyes. Forgive this subordinate for speaking bluntly, but Master's words didn't leave a way out. Could it be that Master really won't be coming back from Great Shu this time? Yin Shui finally voiced her doubts. Even if this consort wanted to stay, Chu Mabe would have to be willing to take me in first. Yao Moen smiled bitterly as she removed the towel on Yi Juanqing's forehead. She soaked it in cold water and wrung it dry. Yin Shui is slow-witted and doesn't understand Master's meaning. Yin Shui frowned in confusion. If it wasn't for the fact that Yi Juanqing led over 1,000 cavalry to attack the Golden Gates, this consort might not have made this decision. Yin Shui, this consort asks you, if the person Chu Mabe wants to marry wasn't this consort, would Yi Juanqing have this kind of reaction? Yao Moen placed the towel back on Yi Juanqing's forehead and turned to look towards Yin Shui. Of course not. Master should know Prince's feelings for Master better than Yin Shui, replied Yin Shui truthfully. That's why this consort's existence has already disturbed Yi Juanqing's most basic principles as the commander-in-chief of the 3 armies. How could he disregard the lives of hundreds of thousands of soldiers just for Moen? How can we give up so easily? We've gone through so many life and death situations to obtain this result. If Yi Juanqing walks down the wrong path again because of this consort, then this consort's crime will truly be unforgivable. Yao Moen turned her gaze back to Yi Juanqing, her eyes hazy. But Yin Shui feels that His Highness isn't someone who gives up so easily. Yin Shui couldn't understand what Yao Moen was thinking. If there was a man in this world who could do this for her, she definitely wouldn't let him down. Then we can only rely on Moen to be even more heartless. Yao Moen smiled bitterly. When she got up to leave the bed, her body suddenly swayed and she almost fell. Fortunately, Yin Shui supported her. When Yin Shui saw the trace of absent-mindedness in Yao Moen's eyes, she believed that her master might not be able to bear it. However, she didn't say it out loud. She believed that one day, the two of them would definitely be able to find each other. Outside the room, Ben Lei carried the meal to the door and saw Feng Yu, Lei Dian whispering to each other. Why hasn't Ting Yu come out yet? Yuer peeked inside the room. Wait a little longer, she'll come out in a bit, comforted Feng Lin. Ting Yu is inside. Then where's Master? She's not accompanying His Highness. How heartless. Ben Lei's first impression was this. When Feng Yu, Lei Dian heard this, he looked back to see Ben Lei's resentful gaze. What are you looking at me for? Did I say something wrong? Back when His Highness wanted to marry Duan Tingting, just look at all of you. It was as if His Highness had committed some great crime and couldn't be appeased without beheading. But now, why aren't you saying anything? His Highness treated Yao Moen so well, but look at the result. Yao Moen is actually going to marry that pretty boy Chu Mabe. She's truly heartless. Doesn't she know that His Highness would be sad if she did this? What an ungrateful and fickle fellow. Who does that Chumabe think he is? In this vanguard's heart, he's just a fart. Ben Lei spoke very loudly, intentionally letting Tingyu, who was in the room, hear him. Ahem, actually, in Chumabe's heart, you really aren't even worth a fart. This was what Feng Lin thought. Yuer feels that Ben Lei should be a little quieter. Yuer rarely gave him a kind reminder. What? This lord dares to say that I'm not afraid of someone snitching on me. Chumabe is scum. Yao Moen is a fickle woman. His Highness is lying here and it's unknown whether he's dead or alive, yet she only cares about currying favor with Chumabe. Humph. Just consider me, Ben Lei, as blind and followed the wrong person. Actually, Ben Lei felt that no matter how outrageous he was, no one would pass it on to Yao Moen. At this time, they should be feeling guilty. Furthermore, he just wanted to get revenge for everyone looking down on him for being a spy that day, so he could vent his anger. However, what made Ben Lei want to cry was that the person who pushed open the door wasn't Tingyu. Moss. Master. You tricked me. Didn't you say Tingyu was inside? Ben Lei's heart was pounding and he instantly wanted to die. That's an injustice. I was only asking why Tingyu hadn't come out yet, but I didn't say that she was coming out of this room. Yuer felt a little wronged. She just didn't want to take care of Yi Junqing, so she begged Tingyu to take her place. Tingyu said she wanted to change clothes, so she left right after changing. Even now, she still hadn't shown herself. Since you feel like you followed the wrong master, then from now on, you're no longer Yao Moen's subordinate. Yao Moen looked coldly at the bewildered Ben Lei, her voice as cold as a hammer. Master, this subordinate was wrong, this subordinate was just speaking the truth. Don't worry, this consort has always done things in an open and above-board manner. This consort rarely takes revenge. Although your words just now were insulting this consort is magnanimous and won't bicker with you. Yao Moen indifferently walked out of the room. Behind her, Yin Shui glanced at Yuer. Although Yuer was unwilling, she still entered the room. Master, this subordinate really didn't mean it like that. Ben Lei suddenly felt that it was necessary to have Imperial Physician Li prepare some mute medicine for him. How many times had he caused trouble from his mouth? In front of this consort, there's no need for you to call yourself this subordinate. Ben Vanguard, please move aside. Yao Moen walked in front of Ben Lei, her eyes as cold as ice. Master. Ben Lei wanted to open his mouth to explain, but when he met Yao Moen's eyes that were as cold as a lake, he instinctively took a step back. The words that were stuck in his throat couldn't come out no matter what. Yao Moen didn't look at Ben Lei and indifferently walked past him. When she took 2 or 3 steps, she inadvertently glanced back at Feng Lin and the others. Although this consort is magnanimous, as this consort's subordinate. After Yao Moen left behind these meaningful words, she resolutely left. Almost the instant Yao Moen turned around, a wave of anguished wails suddenly rang out, piercing through the clouds. The sky was like a lake and the night was as cold as water. The crescent moon hung in the sky like a bow and the entire earth was enveloped in a somber atmosphere. Occasionally, a gust of wind would blow and a chill seemed to sweep through one's heart. That old bastard Nameless, once this crown prince catches him, I'll definitely tear him to pieces and grind his bones to dust. Chumabe lightly waved his folding fan as he walked into the pavilion. His charming eyes lifted slightly as he looked towards Yao Moen. Your Highness Crown Prince isn't too stupid to be able to guess that it was him. Yao Moen lowered her eyes to hide the mist in them. Yi Junqing has been injured quite badly by you. You're really willing to do this? Chumabe walked to Yao Moen's side and looked up at the crescent moon in the sky. There was no praise or criticism in his tone. If you want to succeed, then you can't be restricted by personal feelings. Moen did this for his own good. At least for now, Yao Moen didn't regret her actions. Chapter 484. Are you sure that Yi Junqing cares more about hegemony than you? Chu Mabe pursed his lips slightly, the light in his eyes making it impossible for Yao Moen to hide. When Yao Moen heard this, she smiled bitterly. In this world, there was no one who understood Yi Junqing's nature better than her. If he cared more about hegemony, Yi Junqing wouldn't have done this. However, this was what she owed Yi Junqing, so she couldn't just not return it. As long as Yi Junqing wakes up, Moen will follow you back to Great Shu. As for Nameless, before your Highness Crown Prince cuts him into 1,000 pieces, this consort has something to ask him. Yao Moen turned to leave after saying this. As he watched Yao Moen's departing figure, Chu Mabe's thin lips curved in disappointment. Being with a woman that was too shrewd really put a lot of pressure on him. At this time, Ling Bingxin was eating melon seeds when Ben Lei walked in wearing a white gauze. Who are you? Cough cough. The moment Ling Bingxin saw Ben Lei, she was so shocked that the melon seeds got stuck in her throat and she almost couldn't breathe. Are you alright? I'm Ben Lei. When Ben Lei saw that Ling Bingxin's face was completely red and purple, he immediately patted Ling Bingxin's back twice. Only then did Ling Bingxin calm down. Cough cough. Ben Lei, you're really something. You actually dared to pretend to be a zombie to scare this miss in broad daylight. Preposterous. See if this miss doesn't split open your head. The first thing Ling Bingxin did after she calmed down was to pick up the teapot on the table and throw it at Ben Lei. After a miserable cry, our comrade Ben Lei was completely dead. When Ling Bingxin saw Ben Lei lying on the ground with his limbs facing the sky, she finally realized the severity of the situation and immediately called for an imperial doctor. In the inner room, Ling Bingxin looked at Ben Lei who was lying on the couch with only his eyes exposed. She couldn't help but shake her head. Feng Lin, weren't you guys a bit too ruthless? Ling Bingxin turned to look towards Feng Lin. Even Ben Lei's mortal enemy was looking at him with sympathy, so it wasn't hard to imagine how serious Ben Lei's injuries were. You didn't hear what he said about Master. Sparing his life is already out of consideration for our past brotherly relationship. Also, Master's words are priceless, so we can't just skimp on it. Alright, I still have some matters to attend to and will leave first. I don't want this fellow to faint again when he wakes up and sees me. Feng Lin's eyes were filled with pity as he looked at Ben Lei. Soon after, he turned and left. Not long after Feng Lin left, Ben Lei finally woke up with his tenacious vitality. Where is this? Ben Lei stared blankly at the pink brocade curtains on the couch, speaking with difficulty. You're awake. This is the mute medicine that Imperial Physician Li prepared for you. Take it, and you won't have to worry about trouble coming from the mouth. Ling Bing Axian placed the medicine bag on the side of the bed and said nonchalantly. Ice heart. Ice heart, heart. You have to save me. When he recognized the beauty sitting by the bed, Ben Lei was so moved that hot tears filled his eyes. After almost 2 hours of crying and complaining, Ling Bingxin finally understood why Ben Lei had come to find her. In general, Ben Lei felt that Ling Bingxin could convince Yao Mo Wan to forgive him. The reason he had this thought was because at that time, Ling Bingxin was the only one who had invited Yao Mo Wan out to have a meal with everyone. It was also because of Ling Bingxin that Yao Mo Wan was exceptionally kind to him and even wrote off the money he owed. Ling Bingxin could see that Ben Lei was at his wit's end, otherwise he definitely wouldn't have come to beg the person he normally hated the most. Bingxin can try for you, but, as long as you say it, as long as Ben Lei can do it, I definitely won't haggle. This time, Ben Lei had steeled his heart to beg Lang Bingxin because other than Lang Bingxin, he really didn't know who else he could go to for help. Especially after Feng Lin and the others had brutally beaten him up, Ben Lei suddenly realized that he was actually this lonely. He didn't even have a friend who could treat him with sincerity. This lady is lacking a little follower, are you willing? Lang Bingxin didn't have any reason to be polite and immediately stated her condition. Follower. Ben Lei is the vanguard. Even when he's not on the battlefield, he has to be on standby at all times. Ben Lei didn't express any resentment towards Lang Bingxin's suggestion. He just felt that there was a discrepancy in time. That's fine, this lady is very easy to talk to. I'll just take up your leisure time, how about it, said Lang Bingxin very leniently. Then what would be your follower for? Ben Lei can't do things like undressing and making the bed. Ben Lei gave an example. You sure can dream on. Don't worry, as this lady's follower, you'll spend most of your time eating melon seeds for this lady. It's best if when this lady wants to eat, you can place a large handful of melon seeds in front of this lady. Then this lady will be very interested, explained Lang Bingxin. Deal. Ben Lei nodded fiercely. In his opinion, this matter was as easy as turning over a hand. As long as he and his subordinates worked together, they could definitely eat until Lang Bingxin wanted to vomit at the sight of melon seeds one day. It's a deal. Just take care of it and wait for this lady's good news. Even though Lang Bingxin looked like she had a card up her sleeve, Ben Lei was still a bit apprehensive. After all, the trouble he'd caused this time wasn't small. Around 5:00 the next day, Yi Junqing finally woke up. However, what shocked everyone was that even though Yi Junqing had woken up, he couldn't see anymore. What did you say? Yao Moan's brows were tightly furrowed, her eyes filled with worry. Replying, Master, this subject has already done his best. Prince was first allergic to ginger, then the fire attacked his heart, causing his high fever to not subside. Although the fever has subsided now, his eyes have gone blind because of the fire. Reported Imperial Physician Li with his white brows tightly furrowed. At this moment, Fingyu Dian and the others all looked towards Yao Moan, their hearts filled with an indescribable feeling. Is it temporary, or is there no possibility of it ever getting better? Yao Moan felt an unbearable pain in her heart. That heart-wrenching pain spread through her entire body. If she could transfer the blame, she would rather be the one who had gone blind right now. This subject doesn't dare to be certain, but this subject can recommend a person. If Prince can receive treatment from this person, there's a 90% chance that Prince will be able to see again, said Imperial Physician Li firmly. Who? Asked Yao Moan anxiously. It's this subject's senior brother Gunya, the current head of Great Shu's Imperial Hospital, replied Li Xuan. Great Shu's Imperial Physician. Yao Moan's eyes gradually darkened. The current situation in Great Shu was still unclear. If she rashly brought Yi Junqing to Great Shu, the consequences would be hard to predict. Furthermore, even if she wanted to, Yi Junqing might not necessarily go. Bang! Just as Yao Moan was in a dilemma, the sound of something shattering came from the inner room. When everyone rushed in, they saw Yi Junqing leaning against the table. There were fragments of a teacup scattered around his feet and the back of his hand that was leaning on the table was swollen red. All of you withdraw first. This consort has something to discuss with the esteemed prince. Anyone who saw this would feel uncomfortable. Yao Moan swallowed hard, then waved her hand to dismiss everyone. When the door closed, Yao Moan quickly walked over to the cabinet to grab some gauze. She then reached out to help Yi Junqing up, but Yi Junqing reflexively pushed her away. This prince is fine. When will you leave Mangyuan? His clear and cold voice was like still water without any ripples. Yao Moan looked at her hand that had stopped in midair and a trace of bitterness flashed through her heart. Perhaps Yi Junqing's heart had also ached like this back then. Tomorrow afternoon. Yao Moen suppressed the urge to cry and replied indifferently. Chapter 485. Tomorrow. Then this prince still has time to prepare the dowry. Although you've already put your manifest corporation under this prince's name, you were the one who founded it. As long as you ask, this prince will prepare as much as you need. Yi Junqing's voice was indescribably cold and distant, causing Yao Moen's chest to feel stuffy. It was as if there was a ball of cotton blocking her throat, making her almost suffocate. There's no need for Prince to be so courteous. The vast country of Shu doesn't lack Moen's dowry. Yao Moen tried her best to make her voice sound calm, but her eyes were already glistening. At that time, this prince will accompany you as part of your paternal family with the dowry. Mo Xin has already passed away, otherwise she definitely wouldn't miss your wedding. Today, this prince will help her fulfill this wish. Yi Junqing used the 3 words Yo Mo Xin to seal Yao Moen's mouth. Moen is extremely grateful for Prince's intentions, but this prince has already made up his mind. This prince is tired. Yi Junqing didn't give Yao Moen a chance to continue and immediately groped his way to the bed. Just as Yi Junqing was about to bump into the chair, Yao Moen took a step forward. The moment their fingers touched, Yi Junqing abruptly pulled his hand back. Prince, don't misunderstand. Moen just wants to help Prince back to the bed. This unfamiliar action caused Yao Moen's heart to tremble. It turned out that she didn't need to be that ruthless. The distance between her and Yi Junqing had already grown this far. This prince can do it on his own. If there's nothing else, you should go rest as well. After all, we still have to hurry on our journey tomorrow, said Yi Junqing indifferently before stumbling back to the bed. Yao Moen smiled dismally and left the room. When Yao Moen returned to her room in low spirits, she saw Ling Bingxin sitting with her legs crossed, happily playing with Fluffy. Her appearance was quite similar to when she was in Guan Osprey Palace. Fluffy is shy, I didn't think you'd get along so well with her. Yao Moen smiled and walked in slowly. This subordinate Bingxin kowtows in salute to master. When Yao Moen walked in, Ling Bingxin immediately stood up and cupped her hands respectfully. This isn't like Miss Ling's style. You're an honored guest invited by this consort, there's no need to be so formal. Yao Moen was astonished by Ling Bingxin's actions. She moved forward to support Ling Bingxin, but Ling Bingxin stopped her. Bing Axian is an ownerless person in the martial world. I can go wherever I want. After I met you, I realized that you are worthy of my loyalty. If you don't mind, please accept me. Ling Bing Axian insisted on bowing to Ling Xiao. Miss Bing Axian, have you thought it through? If you become one of my subordinates, in the future, you will be controlled by others. You won't be able to do as you please. Are you sure you want to put these shackles on yourself? With Ling Bingxin joining them, it was like a meat pie falling from the sky. However, Yao Moen had never been one to force things, so she reminded her. In Master's eyes, it's a shackle, but in Bingxin's eyes, it's a safeguard. Ling Bingxin's straightforward personality suited Yao Moen very well. All right. Since Miss Lang trusts this consort naturally won't disappoint Miss Lang. Yao Moen stepped forward to help Ling Bingxin up with a smile on her face. Since Bingxin is one of Master's subordinates, it's my responsibility to share Master's worries. Actually, Bingxin knows that Master and Chu Mabei's wedding is just a show. Since it's a show, Bingxin naturally can't bear for Master to personally participate. If Master is willing, Bingxin is willing to disguise as Master and stay by Chu Mabei's side. Yao Moen's eyes brightened when Ling Bingxin said this. In reality, she and Chu Mabei hated each other. If someone was willing to stay by Chu Maobe's side in her place, that would naturally be for the best. Don't do to others what you don't want done to you. This consort can't push this disgusting matter onto you just because I hate you. You've only just become one of my subordinates, so this consort can't mistreat you. Yao Moen loosened the reins only to grasp them better. Then forget it. Lang Bingxin shrugged and was about to turn around when Yao Moen stopped her. You're leaving just like that? Yao Moen lifted her brows. This person really couldn't take it lying down. Bingxin has already shown her sincerity. If Master feels that Bingxin is a subordinate that you can trust, then feel free to instruct me. If Master suspects that Bingxin has ulterior motives, then Bingxin has no intention of making things difficult for Master. Lang Bingxin's words made Yao Moen feel ashamed. Then it's decided. You'll stay by Chu Maobe's side in this consort's place. In order to not arouse suspicion, you can change this consort's appearance to look like you. How about it? Yao Moen had never been a pretentious person, so she immediately decided on this matter. Bingxin obeys. In addition, Bingxin has another matter to report. Yesterday, Ben Lei found Bingxin and begged Bingxin to plead on his behalf in front of Master. He even swore that he would be respectful towards Master from now on. If he spoke rudely again, he would personally cut off his own tongue. Lang Bingxin embellished the story. Ben Lei, do you think this consort should forgive him? Yao Moen lifted her brows slightly as she looked towards Lang Bingxin. Bingxin doesn't dare to speak carelessly. I'm just reporting the truth, replied Lang Bingxin with a calm expression. Forget it. Help this consort tell him that we can let bygones be bygones. Tomorrow, the esteemed prince will be coming with us to Great Shu's capital. Have him stay by the esteemed prince's side and do his best to take care of the esteemed prince so that he can make up for his mistakes. Yao Moen dismissed Lang Bingxin with a wave of her hand. When Yao Moen saw Lang Bingxin's figure disappear from her line of sight, her lips curved in praise. As expected, Lang Bingxin was intelligent. She had first worshipped herself as her subordinate, then asked for permission to perform a meritorious deed. Afterwards, she didn't have the slightest intention of pleading for leniency when she recounted what had happened to Ben Lei. However, she was probably betting on the fact that she would give her face. What an intelligent woman. At midnight, the night was dark and the wind was strong. Dark clouds covered the moon. A black figure glanced around, then darted into Yi Juanqing's room. Prince. Li Juan entered the room with a hunched back and groped his way in. Shoo, this prince is here, come over. Borrowing the faint moonlight, Li Juan turned to look at the voice. To his surprise, he saw Yi Juanqing leaning against the wall and waving at him. Prince, why are you here? Li Juan crouched down as he groped his way over. It's better to be safe than sorry. Are you sure that no one noticed when you came in? Yi Juanqing pulled Li Juan over and the two of them sat side by side. Prince, don't worry. This subject guarantees that no one followed us and no one noticed, promised Li Juan. That's good. Did you bring the thing that this prince wanted? Before this, Yi Juanqing had already searched the entire room. Only after confirming that Feng, Yu, Lei, Dian, and Yin Shua weren't within 100 meters of this room did he feel at ease. This is this subject's personal letter. As long as Prince gives this letter to this subject's senior brother Gunya, he will know what to do. As Li Juan spoke, he took out a letter and carefully handed it to Yi Juanqing. And, not bad. Yi Juanqing nodded as he accepted the letter. Prince, this subject has a request. If Prince accidentally reveals the fact that you haven't lost your sight. If the Empress of Chu finds out that this subject lied to her, then this subject's old life will be over. Li Juan looked towards Yi Juanqing with a troubled expression. Don't worry. If this subject really is discovered, this prince can say that it's just in time. Yi Junqing put the letter away and looked up. Li Xuan's gaze was still fixed on him. All right, this prince promises you. Even if this prince is exposed, I definitely won't implicate you. Yi Junqing swore. This subject thanks Prince on behalf of the 18 generations of Li family's ancestors. Li Xuan's heart finally calmed down. After Li Xuan left, Yi Junqing quietly climbed onto the bed, but he didn't fall asleep for a long time. Chapter 486. Moan, after experiencing life and death, how can Junqing believe that your heart is with Chu Maobei? How can Junqing be at ease and let you bear everything alone? With you here, this world is as beautiful as a painting. Without you, what use does Junqing have for this world? The next morning, Chu Maobei ordered Yin Xiong to escort Chu Maxin back to the capital first to report, while he left Mang Yuan with Yao Moan and the others. What Chu Maobei hadn't expected was that Yi Junqing would come with them. Ting Yu, Yin Shui, Ben Lei, and Lang Bingxin also came with them. Feng Yu, Lei, and Dian were sent back to Guangning to explain everything to Huan Heng and Helian Peng. It was already noon, so everyone was resting in a small forest. Master, you must be thirsty. This is the water Ben Lei scooped from the stream up ahead. It's sweet and delicious, have a taste. Ever since Lang Bingxin told Ben Lei that Yao Moan had already agreed to forgive her, Ben Lei had been acting like a lackey in front of Yao Moan. With Prince here, how could Ben Gong possibly be thirsty? Just properly serve the esteemed prince. Also, Bingxin doesn't even have the strength to truss a chicken, so you must take good care of her, understand? At this moment, Lang Bingxin, who was wearing Yao Moan's skin, kindly reminded Ben Lei. Master, don't worry, Ben Lei will definitely do his best. Then this water, said Ben Lei attentively as he held the silver bowl in his hands. Lang Bingxin felt that Ben Lei had good intentions, so she accepted it and drank a few mouthfuls. After Ben Lei left, Chu Maobei turned to look towards Lang Bingxin. You seem to be a bit different today. Chu Maobei examined Lang Bingxin deeply as his voice carried a hint of suspicion. Your Highness, what do you think is different about Moan? Lang Bingxin's eyes turned slightly cold. When she looked up, her eyes were bright. From Mang Yuan until now, you haven't looked at Yi Junqing once. What? Aren't you worried about Yi Junqing's eyes? Asked Chu Maobei suspiciously. Even if I'm worried, there's no need to keep my eyes on Yi Junqing. Besides, with Ben Lei and Lang Bingxin taking care of him, this consort can be at ease. Lang Bingxin knew that Chu Maobei's gaze was too sharp. Just looking at him made her feel guilty. Thankfully, Lang Bingxin was extremely confident in her appearance-changing skills, otherwise she would have been trembling a long time ago. You really didn't tell Yi Junqing about our acting? Chu Maobei expressed his doubts. If Moan wanted to tell you, she would have told me a long time ago. Why would she wait until now? Lang Bingxin countered with a question. Last night, Yao Moan had already given her a rough explanation of what had happened, so Lang Bingxin felt that she could handle Chu Maobei's questions that weren't too difficult to answer. Inside the carriage, Yi Junqing accepted the silver bowl Ben Lei passed over and took a few sips. Ben Lei, where's Moan? Yi Junqing stared blankly ahead. It looked like he was blind, but in reality, he was able to see everything. From this, it could be seen that Li Xuan's medical skills were quite profound. It was just a single pill, but Yi Junqing's eyeballs were moving more than 10 times slower than normal. It was obvious that he was blind at first glance. Master and Chu Maobei are sitting next to the carriage in front, having a heart-to-heart talk, replied Ben Lei as he stared into Yi Junqing's eyes. Did you hear what they were talking about? Yi Junqing asked. When he saw that Yao Moan and Chu Maobei were chatting happily, he felt a little anxious. Your Highness, you're already in such a state, so why bother making this trip? You're just making things difficult for yourself. Ben Lei took the silver bowl from Yi Juanqing's hands. When he saw that there was movement in the carriage in front, he immediately got on and tugged on the reins. Moan is Ma Xin's only blood-related younger sister. Now that she's getting married, this prince has to attend no matter what. If she gets bullied, with this prince around, she won't feel like she doesn't have anyone to rely on. Since Lang Bingxin was in the carriage, Yi Junqing could only say some polite words. In reality, neither Yi Junqing nor Ben Lei understood why Yao Moan had Lang Bingxin come along. If she came along, then so be it. Why did she have to arrange for her to sit in this carriage? Your Highness, you really know how to joke. Master would get bullied. It's already good enough that she doesn't bully others, said Ben Lei angrily. You can't say it like that. People make mistakes and horses stumble. In this life, no one can guarantee that everything will be smooth sailing. Yao Moan, who hadn't spoken for a long time, finally opened her eyes and said indifferently. That's because you don't understand Master. Ever since Ben Lei started following Master, I've never seen anyone take advantage of Master. Chu Mabe is the only exception. Back at Bright Moon Gorge, Master almost died at that bastard's hands. Now, I don't know what Master is thinking, but she actually wants to marry that guy. As Ben Lei spoke, he took out a cloth pouch and handed it to Yao Moan. What is it? Yao Moan lifted her brows as she took it. Melon seeds. If it weren't for you, Master wouldn't have been able to accept Ben Lei, said Ben Lei gratefully. It's nothing. Actually, Yao Moan isn't that hard to get along with. If you're sincere about her, she'll naturally understand your good intentions. Yao Moan had always felt that she was still quite qualified as a master. Wang Yi is sincere about her, but what about her? Wang Yi, don't be sad. If Yao Moan really dares to marry Chu Mabe, Ben Lei will definitely make a scene in the wedding hall and sever his master-servant relationship with Yao Moan in front of everyone. Ben Lei only knew that Yi Junqing was in the carriage, so he immediately expressed his stance. At the side, Yao Moan's lips curved. Since you had this intention, why did you have Bingxin plead for leniency for you back then? Asked Yao Moan in confusion. The premise of severing the master-servant relationship in front of everyone is that Ben Lei is still Yao Moan's subordinate, right? Said Ben Lei resentfully. When he said this, Yao Moan's forehead instantly darkened. Ben Lei is so smart. Yao Moan clenched her teeth. Just a so. Oh right, what's wrong with your throat? Ben Lei noticed that Yao Moan's throat was hoarse and asked in concern. I ate too many melon seeds. Yao Moan restrained the sinister light in her eyes as she replied warmly. Yao Moan finally realized that out of all of her subordinates, Ben Lei was undoubtedly the one who deserved a beating the most. Miss Bingxin, this prince knows that you've mastered the art of disguise. Could you do this prince a favor? Asked Yi Junqing suddenly with a solemn expression. Prince, if there's anything you need, just tell me. As long as Bingxin can do it. Yao Moan decided not to lower herself to Ben Lei's level for now. Her gaze fell on Yi Junqing's face. When she saw that pair of clear and untainted eyes that were like stagnant water, Yao Moan's heart ached. Even if Moan is determined to marry Chu Mabe, this prince hopes that you can have Ben Lei change his appearance into Moan's to marry Chu Mabe. After saying this, Yao Moan and Ben Lei both looked towards Yi Junqing at the same time, large beads of cold sweat dripping down the back of their heads. Prince. Prince. That's not what you said earlier. Ben Lei looked towards Yi Junqing with a bitter expression. He didn't know what to feel. It was this prince who was hypocritical. This prince admits that this time, I came with Moan to Shu not because Moan is Ma Xin's younger sister, nor because I want to sit in her wedding hall with Chu Maobei. No matter what price I have to pay, this prince will not allow Moan to marry Chu Maobei. This prince will speak frankly. Would Miss Bingxin be willing to agree to this prince's request? Yi Junqing thought about it for a long time and finally decided to rope in Lang Bingxin. Ahem. Changing appearance is easy, but if Ben Xianfeng doesn't mind changing a certain part of his body, then Bingxin is naturally willing to help Prince. Yao Moan had originally thought that Yi Junqing had given up on her, so even when she had tried to help him last night, he had avoided her. At this moment, Yao Moan's heart felt like it was filled with all sorts of emotions. Prince Ben Lei is the only son of 3 generations, cried Ben Lei. Then, let's talk about it later. Yi Junqing sighed, then leaned back against the carriage and slowly closed his eyes. He needed to think about how to stop this wedding with limited manpower. This was a problem. He wished Yao Moan his true love. But if Yao Moan didn't marry Yi Junqing, how could he back out? Times have changed, Moan's level of appreciation has changed. If King Qi doesn't have anything important to say, then Moan would like to rest. Lang Bingxin forced a smile, but her smile was a little stiff. Since you're unwilling to speak, Ihan won't force you. But if Ihan finds out that Chu Maobei secretly did something, he definitely won't just stand by. I came in a hurry and didn't bring Si Qing with me. Feng Yihan's eyes dimmed. He pursed his lips and turned to leave. Even though he desperately wanted to know the truth, he couldn't bear to put Yao Moan in a difficult position. Si Qing. Lang Bingxin immediately regretted it. In this sort of situation, answering was the same as courting death. That's right, Yihan knows that you miss Si Qing, but Yihan is worried that it wouldn't be able to handle the long journey, explained Feng Yihan indifferently. At the side, Tingyu choked when she heard this. She wanted to continue but she was still a step too late. It's rare for King Qi to have such tender feelings for the fairer sex. That girl is truly blessed. Later on, when Lang Bingxin thought back to this matter, she felt that the problem wasn't with her. Si Qing, no matter how she heard it, it sounded like a woman's name. Furthermore, based on Feng Yihan's tone at the time, she had only given a very fitting compliment. It was only human nature. Girl. Feng Yihan turned around when he heard this, his eyes narrowing slightly. That master has always. Tingyu stepped forward to smooth things over but was stopped by Feng Yihan. Regarding Si Qing. Yihan is still very grateful that Moan was willing to give her most intimate servant to Yihan, said Feng Yihan as he walked towards Lang Bingxin. Ah. Lang Bingxin saw through Tingyu's eyes and immediately felt guilty. You're too polite. Just as Lang Bingxin finished speaking, Feng Yihan suddenly reached out and grabbed Lang Bingxin's collar. Who are you? Feng Yihan's handsome and cold face instantly turned frosty. He increased the strength in his hand and shouted harshly. This one is Lang Bingxin, one of Yao Moan's subordinates. I'm carrying out a mission on master's orders. King Qi, don't be impatient. Let go first. Lang Bingxin didn't even wait for Feng Yihan to ask a second time before revealing everything. At the side, Tingyu raised her brows again and again as a drop of cold sweat dripped down her face. Tingyu, Zhen wants to see Yao Moan. Feng Yihan suddenly let go and turned to look at Tingyu. This. While Tingyu was hesitating, Feng Yihan had already started walking away. Hurry and follow him. Don't let him run around randomly. It would be bad if he was discovered. Lang Bingxin reminded Tingyu. Tingyu also knew the severity of the situation and immediately chased after him. Only after Tingyu left did Lang Bingxin let out a sigh of relief. However, before she could calm down, her vision turned pitch black. Moen, this noble one needs to explain. A clear and bright voice suddenly rang out. Lang Bingxin looked up and instantly felt her spirits rise. Although the person in front of her couldn't be considered unparalleled in elegance, he had an indescribable charm that made people feel reverence from a single glance. Honorable Lord, please sit. Lang Bingxin's mind spun quickly. Of the people Chu Maxin had mentioned, only 2 weren't sovereigns and one of them was a woman. Thus, the person in front of her should be 10,000 Emperor City Lord Han Genie. Honorable Lord, please sit. Lang Bingxin laughed dryly as she spoke, but inside, she was complaining incessantly. Why did he have to say this again? Wasn't it just marrying Chu Maobei? What was there to explain? Moen, this noble one came from that brat Chu Maobei's resting palace. He said that you married him willingly. Is that true? Han Genie was dressed in black robes. There was an unconcealable melancholy in his eyes. When Lang Bingxin saw this, she couldn't help but want to reach out and smooth out his brows. Yes, it's true. With the previous experience, Lang Bingxin's reply was especially careful. The reason? Han Genie's gaze shot towards Yao Moen. The light in his eyes caused Lang Bingxin's heart to shatter. She felt that this man's feelings for Yao Moen were real. The reason? The reason is that the 2 of them love each other. Honorable Lord, there's no need to ask why Moen would abandon Yi Junqing. In reality, who can say for sure when it comes to feelings? Lang Bingxin's reply was ambiguous. Are you sure that you won't regret it? Are you sure that other than Yi Junqing, Chu Maobei is your best choice? Han Genie's expression was calm, but his heart felt like it was being clenched. This was the first time he tasted pain. Chapter 488. I'm sure. Although Han Genie concealed it very well, Lang Bingxin could still see the sorrow in those eyes. This is this Supreme Lord's congratulatory gift. I hope you like it. Goodbye. Han Genie didn't say anything else and placed a large purple glass ball on the table. Thus, Lang Bingxin was at a loss. What kind of attitude should she have towards this congratulatory gift? Yao Moen was the boss of Yao Manifest Corporation and was wealthy enough to rival a country. She probably wouldn't care about these treasures, right? After struggling for a bit, Lang Bingxin didn't even look at the purple glass ball on the table and got up to send her off. If you have time, go visit Qing'er and the others in 10,000 Imperial City. They're waiting to play the game of digging out Jade Scepter and drinking porridge with you. Han Genie seemed to have mentioned this unintentionally. Lang Bingxin had learned her lesson and only responded with a sound. She didn't dare to question anything else, but unfortunately, she still couldn't escape her fate. Thus, when Tingyu returned, she saw Lang Bingxin being choked by Han Genie. Supreme Lord Han. What are you doing? Hurry and put my master down. Tingyu rushed over but her acupuncture points were sealed by Han Genie. Who are you? Han Genie's eyes were cold as she asked in a stern voice. Yao Moen's subordinate Lang Bingxin, carrying out a mission, cough cough. How did Supreme Lord know that Bingxin was fake? Lang Bingxin had always been proud of her adaptability, but after losing 2 rounds in a row, she suddenly started to doubt herself. If you were Yao Moen, this noble one can say without exaggeration that when this noble one took out the purple glass ball, even if you didn't kiss it, you would still be smiling. The most impossible thing to do would be to turn a blind eye to it. At the time, Yi Junqing and Duan Tingting were close. Even at the lowest point of her life, Yao Moen still didn't forget to amass wealth. With this kind of temperament, would she be completely unmoved by a large purple glass bowl? This noble one wants to see Yao Moen. After hearing that Lang Bingxin was Yao Moen's subordinate, Han Genie let go. Cough cough. Ting Yu, I'll have to trouble you, said Lang Bingxin helplessly as she rubbed her neck. Hearing this, Han Genie waved her hand and unsealed Ting Yu's acupoint. After Ting Yu left, Lang Bingxin felt that it was necessary to close the door and refuse to receive guests. However, just as she was about to close the door, she saw a woman walking to the door. Judging from her attire, she did not seem to be from the Central Plains. Don't you intend to let Zidong in? Lang Bingxin admitted that the woman in front of her was extremely beautiful, but that was 10 years ago. At her age now, it was already polite of her not to call her aunt. Lang Bingxin was speechless. She knew that the more she spoke, the more mistakes she would make. The less she spoke, the less mistakes she would make. She did not say anything wrong, so she just stepped aside to make way for Duan Zidong and gestured for her to enter. What made Lang Bingxin feel incomparably miserable was that the originally gentle and kind old beauty, as soon as she entered the room, she glared at Lang Bingxin. Who are you? Hearing Duan Zidong's words, Lang Bingxin immediately had the idea of retiring from the Jianghu. This. Can't Princess Hanhua tell? Lang Bingxin struggled. You can say anyone's name, but not Yao Moen. This consort is asking you, where is Yao Moen? Duan Zidong went straight to the point. Later on, Lang Bingxin found out from Duan Zidong that there were bugs like the heart parasite in this world, so she shamelessly asked Duan Zidong for one. Later on, she accidentally planted it on Ben Lei's body. After that, Ben Lei paid a painful price and never wanted to go to a brothel again. Ting Yu. Save me. Lang Bingxin was extremely gratified that Ting Yu was able to arrive in time. At this moment, Yao Moen's room was already packed with people. When Duan Zidong walked into the room, Yao Moen repeated the content that she had just explained twice. So you think that nameless of the Iron Blood Corps wants to use the marriage between you and Chu Mabe to kill us? At that time, all the countries will be like a group of dragons without a leader and won't be able to take care of themselves, so no one will care about Great Chu's internal strife. Feng Yihan looked towards Yao Moen. At least that's a possibility. Yao Moen nodded in response. Nameless. If this sovereign runs into him, he will definitely be buried under the golden tree as fertilizer. Han Genie said sternly. Since you know it's a scheme, why did you still agree to Chu Mabe's request? Aren't you walking right into a trap? Duan Zidong was confused. Moen didn't have a choice. If Moen didn't agree, Golden Gate would definitely send out troops. Meng Yuan would be in imminent danger at this time. If Chao Kun attacked at this time, the consequences would be obvious. Yao Moen felt a bit helpless. In reality, if Chu Mabe hadn't been worried about Chu Shi's safety and panicked, even if he hadn't begged her, she would have obediently followed him to Great Chu. Then what do we do now? The enemy is in the dark while we're out in the open. It's very hard to guard against them, said Duan Zidong with a frown. Actually, even if you didn't look for Moen, Moen had planned to look for you to discuss this matter at a later time. Moen has thought about it. Regardless of whether Moen's guess is correct or not, it's not good for you all to stay in the capital, said Yao Moen solemnly. But if we leave, we'll definitely alert the enemy. Feng Yihan looked towards Yao Moen worriedly. Actually, seeing Moen's current appearance, the three of you should be able to guess Moen's plan, right? Yao Moen's lips curled into a smile, her eyes brilliant. Bringing Lang Bingxin along this time was really worth it. In order to not attract attention, Feng Yihan and the other two didn't stay in Yao Moen's room for too long. Once the three of them left, Yao Moen felt that it was time to switch identities with Lang Bingxin. Fortunately, the people who discovered her were all trustworthy people. Otherwise, if some scheming people saw through her, she would be in a passive position. However, just as Yao Moen was about to open the door, Chu Mabe stood in front of the door like a statue, his expression handsome and cold. Your Highness Crown Prince is looking for Bingxin? Asked Yao Moan with a smile. Are you not planning to invite this Crown Prince in? Asked Chu Maobei with raised brows. Before Yao Moan could react, Chu Maobei had already entered the room. Yao Moan hesitated for a moment, then turned around and closed the door tightly. Your Highness Crown Prince, please sit. Bingxin will prepare some tea for you right away. Yao Moan couldn't guess Chu Maobei's intentions, so she naturally couldn't start a conversation. This Crown Prince has always thought that Empress Chu was very astute, but from Meng Yuan until now, this Crown Prince still can't understand why Empress Chu wants to switch identities with Lang Bingxin. Is it because Empress Chu can't bear to part with Yi Junqing, so she wants to stay by his side as Lang Bingxin? Or is it because Empress Chu hates this Crown Prince so much that she can't even bear to travel with me? By the time Chu Maobei finished speaking, the teacup in Yao Moan's hand had already started to overflow. Ahem. Your Highness Crown Prince means. Yao Moan knew that she was in the wrong, so her tone became much more modest. What this Crown Prince means is that from Meng Yuan, this Crown Prince had already seen that Yao Moan was fake. The reason why I didn't say it was because I wanted to know what exactly Empress Chu was planning. Unfortunately, even now, this Crown Prince still hasn't seen Empress Chu's intentions or schemes. This makes this Crown Prince very disappointed. Chu Maobei's eyes were like frost and his voice was bone-chilling. For the first time, Yao Moan felt that she couldn't find any excuse to defend herself in front of Chu Maobei, so she stayed silent. This Crown Prince admits that the purpose of joining hands with Empress Chu this time is to resolve Great Chu's internal problems, but in the end, if we can capture Nameless, it'll be a good thing for both of us. Maobei has troubled Empress Chu, so at this critical juncture, no matter how bad your impression of Maobei is, shouldn't you consider the greater picture first? Could it be that Empress Chu thinks that we're playing house? If we fail, Maobei naturally can't afford to lose. Could it be that Empress Chu can afford to lose? Chu Maobei's harsh words left Yao Moan speechless. She admitted that the reason she switched identities with Lang Bingxin was just as Chu Maobei said. She wanted to stay by Yi Junqing's side and didn't want to be with Chu Maobei for even a second. You really recognized Lang Bingxin from the start? Yao Moan expressed her doubt. Chapter 489. As mortal enemies who hate each other, Mo Bei would be able to recognize the Empress of Chu even if she turned into ashes. If she didn't want to die, Empress Chu knew what to do. Empress Chu might not be able to bear the consequences of alerting the enemy, said Chu Maobei coldly. Then he left without waiting for Yao Moan's reply. After Chu Maobei left, Yao Moan sat alone at the table. After reflecting on the painful experience, she resolutely got up and walked towards Lang Bingxin's room. In the darkness, Huangfu Juanxiu only let out a sigh of relief when Yao Moan's figure gradually disappeared into the distance. Empress Chu doesn't look very happy. Being scolded by this prince, how could she still be happy? But, it really feels great. Chu Maobei let out a long sigh of relief. He was in a good mood. Your Highness Crown Prince, may this subject be so bold as to ask, when did you realize that Lang Bingxin wasn't Yao Moan? In reality, when the secret messenger from the palace came to report, Huangfu Juanxiu had intentionally taken a look at Lang Bingxin. The level of his disguise was truly extraordinary. In any case, he wouldn't be able to see through it with his naked eyes. This Crown Prince still hasn't figured it out. Wasn't it the secret envoy who reported it? Chu Maobei replied honestly. On the side, Huangfu Juanxiu raised his eyebrows and wiped off his cold sweat. That's not what His Highness the Crown Prince told Yao Moan when he was leaning against the window. In reality, it was all thanks to Duan Zitong that Chu Maobei's spies in the palace were able to discover this secret. Only someone like Duan Zitong, who didn't know any martial arts, would dare to approach and eavesdrop on Leng Bingxin's room. Outside Imperial Shu City's Imperial Hospital, Yi Junqing raised his head to look at the sky. His eyes followed the flying swallows as they circled back and forth several times. Your Highness, I didn't expect Li Jun's senior martial brother to be such a miraculous doctor. You didn't even need to take a pulse, and just took a look at Li Jun's letter and you were able to prescribe the right medicine. How do you feel now? Ben Lei praised. What do you mean you don't need to take my pulse? You just didn't see it when he took this king's pulse. Yi Junqing immediately retorted. If Yao Moen heard this, she would definitely become suspicious and that would be troublesome. Why didn't Ben Lei see? Ben Lei scratched his head, disapproving. Stop wasting time. Go find Emperor Xia immediately. This prince has something to discuss with him. Yi Junqing knew that it would be difficult for him to stop Chu Mabe and Yao Moen's wedding alone. Your Highness, there is no need to look for him. Emperor Xia is here. When Ben Lei received the order and turned around, he saw Di Feng striding towards them. Inside the pavilion, Di Feng looked left and right while Yi Junqing looked around. After confirming that no one was eavesdropping, the two of them spoke at the same time. I have something to ask you. I have something to ask of you. When Di Feng saw the urgency in Yi Junqing's eyes, he suppressed the doubts in his heart and let Yi Junqing speak first. No matter what, you must help this king this time. The reason why Yao Moen wanted to marry Chu Mabe was to resolve the situation in Mangyuan. Although she didn't say it, this prince knows that she was unwilling. This king has thought it through. No matter what method I use, I will stop their wedding, even if I have to incur the wrath of the masses. At that time, this prince will hand Moen over to you and then return to Mangyuan to have a final showdown with Great Shu. Based on this prince's over 10 years of experience on the battlefield, this prince definitely won't lose the battle at the Golden Gate, said Yi Junqing solemnly. Are you sure that Yao Moen wants to marry Chu Mabe? Di Feng lifted his brows as he looked towards Yi Junqing, his eyes filled with doubt. Yao Moen said it herself. She told this prince that Chu Mabe is her husband in this life. Even if Yi Junqing didn't believe it, his heart still hurt. It can't be. Then why did she have Leng Bingxin disguise herself as her to parade around the city? I thought that you guys had some sort of scheme and wanted to talk to you about it. Di Feng's brows furrowed. He suddenly didn't understand what Yao Moen was trying to do. What did you say? She had Leng Bingxin disguise herself as her. When did this happen? Yi Junqing looked towards Di Feng in disbelief. You don't know. The current Yao Moen is Leng Bingxin. At the time, I wanted to go find Yao Moen to understand the situation, but I just happened to see her with that Princess Hanhue from Nanxiang. Coincidentally, just as I was about to enter, I heard Princess Hanhue ask who she was. She personally said that she was called Leng Bingxin and that she was Yao Moen's subordinate, said Di Feng truthfully. Yao Moen is Leng Bingxin. Then where did Yao Moen go? Leng Bingxin. Yi Junqing's eyes lit up. So the person who had been by his side the entire time was actually Yao Moen. His heart instantly rippled. He just knew that he and Yao Moen had gone through life and death together to get to this day, so how could she marry someone else? What are you doing? When Di Feng saw that Yi Junqing was about to leave the pavilion, he grabbed him. I'm going to find Yao Moen. Yi Junqing had been depressed for over 10 days, but now he suddenly felt like he had a chest full of things he wanted to tell Yao Moen. This time, he didn't hesitate. Don't. I came to Great Shu for you, so you should at least tell me. What are you guys trying to do? Di Feng was doubtful. When he had received the King of Shu's invitation, he had guessed that there was definitely something hidden. In reality, if it weren't for the fact that he was worried about Yao Moen and Yi Junqing, he really wouldn't have needed to give the king of Shu face. "I'll come find you tomorrow." Yi Junqing couldn't wait to see Yao Moen, so he naturally didn't want to waste words with Di Feng. Besides, he was also completely at a loss. "Hey! Yi Junqing, you're not being honest. I've already told you everything, you." Di Feng was unwilling to let him off. "Xia Furong." Yi Junqing abruptly turned around and stared at the top of the pavilion with a cold expression. "Who?" "Xia. Xia Furong. You can see Xia Furong." Di Feng let go in surprise and followed Yi Junqing's gaze. Almost at the same time, Yi Junqing had practically teleported out of the pavilion at lightning speed. "Yi Junqing. You're fucking using a dead person to scare Laozi, aren't you shameless?" Outside the pavilion, Di Feng's roar lingered for a long time. Yi Junqing moved as if he was flying while Ben Lei jogged behind him. "Prince, did Master really switch faces with Lang Bingxin?" When Ben Lei heard this news, he felt as if he had been struck by lightning. Perhaps he hadn't said anything bad about Master on the way here. The more Ben Lei thought about it, the more guilty he felt. He suddenly felt as if his world was on the verge of collapse. "Shut up, do you want the entire world to know about this?" Yi Junqing roared angrily as he sped towards Lang Bingxin's room. Ben Lei felt that he should go find Lang Bingxin for help at this time, so he quietly turned around and went to Yao Moen's room. But at this time, Yao Moen was truly Yao Moen and Lang Bingxin could only be Lang Bingxin. "Moen, why did you lie to this prince?" After making sure that no one was eavesdropping, Yi Junqing abruptly pushed open Lang Bingxin's door and walked in. At this time, Lang Bingxin was pondering over this painful experience. In the end, was her adaptability really that bad? Being recognized by 3 people in a row, she felt very frustrated. "Prince? What are you doing here?" Lang Bingxin wasn't in a good mood, so her attitude towards Yi Junqing naturally wasn't any better. "Moen, I'm sorry, this prince should have recognized you." Yi Junqing hurriedly walked in front of Lang Bingxin, his gaze filled with unconcealable guilt and apprehension. When he reached out, Lang Bingxin dodged his hand. Chapter 490. Prince, Bingxin really wants to know if you really like Yao Moen or not. If it's true love, then why did Feng Yihan, Duan Zitong, and Han Genie all expose Bing Xian in less than the time it takes to make a cup of tea, while Prince, even now, when you look at Bing Xian, you're still calling Yao Moen's name so deeply. Moen. Yi Junqing furrowed his brows and a trace of uncertainty appeared in his eyes. In principle, Bingxin should be happy. At the very least, Bingxin's disguise technique managed to fool Prince. However, Bingxin really can't bring herself to be happy. Prince should also reflect on just how important Yao Moen is in your heart. And how much does Prince understand about Yao Moen? Lang Bingxin didn't care about Yi Junqing's reaction and immediately sat down. She reached out to pour a cup of water and drank it in one gulp. Even so, she was still extremely angry. "You really aren't Moen." If it was Moen, she would have thrown the cup over. Yi Junqing smiled bitterly and turned to leave. He didn't love Yao Moen. How was that possible? He was even willing to use his own life to exchange for Yao Moen's safety and even give up the chance to get revenge for Ma Xin. But why was it that everyone could guess but he couldn't? Besides, the bitter drama playing out in Yao Moen's room right now was also very exciting. "Bingxin, I'm begging you. If you don't come out and plead for leniency for me this time, Ben Lei might very well become a eunuch." Ben Lei placed both hands on the table as he half-squatted in front of Yao Moen. "It's that serious?" "Then what did you say?" Yao Moen's gaze drifted over to Ben Lei, but Ben Lei was completely unaware of it. I didn't say much, I just said that Yao Moan is snobbish, petty, holds grudges, is cold-blooded and heartless, has a heart of stone, and has no sense of responsibility. Oh right, I also said that if Yao Moan dared to marry Chu Maobei, I would dare to sever our relationship as father and daughter. Pa, master and servant. Bingxin, if you don't save Ben Lei, then Ben Lei's really dead for sure. Although men did not easily shed tears, in order to spice up the atmosphere, Ben Lei desperately squeezed out 2 drops of sparkling tears to gain sympathy. Back then, you cried and yelled that you wanted to be Yao Moan's subordinate. I don't understand. Since you couldn't bear to leave, why did you speak so rudely? Yao Moan suppressed the anger in her heart and said indifferently. You don't know, the situation was complicated at that time. His Highness was in the carriage, so I had to say something to comfort him. Whenever he thought about how Yao Moan had been sitting right next to him when he was boasting shamelessly, Ben Lei felt all the hairs on his body stand up straight. You think that belittling Yao Mo Wan will make His Highness feel better? Yao Mo Wan lifted her brows as she looked towards Ben Lei. She felt that this kind of thinking was too narrow-minded. Of course. Only by making Prince fully realize Yao Mo Wan's flaws will Prince give up. Ben Lei believed this. Yao Moan didn't say anything. She took a deep breath and resisted the urge to call in Shui. What do you think? Can you help me with this? Just state your conditions. Ben Lei was anxious. Right at this time, the door was pushed open and Yi Junqing appeared in front of the 2 of them. I'm afraid she won't be able to help. Yi Junqing slowly walked into the room, his footsteps abnormally heavy. Prince, why? Asked Ben Lei in confusion. Because she isn't Leng Bingxin, but Yao Mo Wan. Yi Junqing walked towards Yao Mo Wan step by step, his deep eyes shining with an indecipherable light. When he saw that Yao Mo Wan's face was getting closer and closer, Yi Junqing suddenly didn't dare to move forward. His heart felt like it was being pressed down by a boulder, making it difficult for it to beat. It can't be. Ben Lei was stunned and his complexion instantly paled. In Shui, please ask Ben Lei to leave. As Yao Mo Wan spoke, Ben Lei's body flew out the door like a kite with its string cut, leaving behind miserable screams that lingered in the room. Mo Wan, I'm sorry, this is already the 2nd time this prince wasn't able to recognize you. Yi Junqing stopped a meter away from Yao Mo Wan. His eyes were dim and the corners of his lips were tightly pursed. In Shui, close the door. Without this consort's orders, no one is allowed to approach. This was Great Shu's imperial palace after all, so Yao Mo Wan couldn't afford to be careless. The moment the door was closed, Yao Mo Wan reached out to pick up the teapot and filled Yi Junqing's teacup. Then she lifted her eyes to indicate for Yi Junqing to sit over. Prince definitely has doubts in your heart. That's right, Mo Wan and Chu Maobei's marriage was fake. The goal was to capture Nameless, who was manipulating the king of Shu from behind the scenes. The reason I hadn't mentioned this to Prince was because I didn't want to beat the grass and alert the snake. If Nameless found out that we had made preparations beforehand, with his craftiness, he would definitely change his strategy. At that time, it would be very difficult for us to beat him at his own game. I hope that Prince can understand Mo Wan's concealment. Yao Mo Wan felt that this explanation was a bit forced, but she really didn't have a better reason. This prince just wants to know, in your plan, besides this prince, who else doesn't know about the cause and effect of the entire matter? Yi Junqing's hand trembled as he picked up the teacup. Ben Lei. Yao Mo Wan hesitated for a moment before replying indifferently. So besides Ben Lei, Yin Shui, Ting Yu, and even Leng Bingxin all knew that this was just a play. Yi Junqing's deliberate emphasis caused Yao Mo Wan to feel slightly embarrassed. That is indeed the case. However, Mo1 had her reasons for doing this. At this moment, Yao Mo1 actually didn't know what to say. This prince knows your reasons. It's because in your heart, Junqing isn't worthy of trust. Isn't that right? Yi Junqing raised his deep eyes slightly, the shock on Yao Mo1's face reflected in his pupils that were as black as midnight. Not so long ago, they had also quarreled, but they had never said such harsh words. Prince is exaggerating. Yao Mo1 felt her chest tighten and her voice trembled slightly. Is this prince exaggerating or has this prince hit the nail on the head? Back in Guan Osprey Palace, you clearly knew the truth behind Ma Xin's tragic death, but this prince asked you countless times and you used countless answers to deceive this prince. It's true that you had good intentions, but this prince wants to ask you, was the reason you deceived this prince back then because you didn't want this prince to be in danger or because you were afraid that this prince would ruin your plan in a moment of anger? Yi Junqing held the teacup with both hands and placed it on the table to prevent the tea from splashing on the back of his hand. Does Prince really have to bring up old scores at a time like this? Yao Mo1 choked inwardly, her eyes cold and emotionless. This prince wants to know your answer, said Yi Junqing stubbornly. Both, replied Yao Mo1 solemnly. This prince believes that the latter is more likely. Also, why didn't you tell this prince about Duan Shiming's harsh demands in Nanqiang? Do you believe that if you had told this prince, the result would have been different? Ha, how could you believe that? Yi Junqing smiled bitterly. What exactly is Prince trying to say? Yao Mo1 looked towards Yi Junqing with clear eyes as she felt extremely stifled. In reality, what right does this prince have to blame you? Compared to Feng Yihan, Duan Zitong, and Han Jini, this prince has been in contact with you day and night, but in the end, all of them were able to tell that the Yao Mo1 at the time was fake. You just had to be sitting right next to this prince, but this prince didn't notice at all. Yi Junqing's brows furrowed tightly as his heart ached, but his expression was as calm as a lake. What does this mean? Yao Mo1 felt extremely uneasy. It means that their feelings for you far surpass this prince's. Compared to this prince, they care about you more, care about you. As for this prince, sometimes, I can't even tell if the you in front of me is Mo1 or Ma Xin, said Yi Junqing solemnly, but his heart was in extreme pain. He could even feel his heart bleeding. So, Yao Mo1 pursed her lips as she looked at Yi Junqing with sparkling eyes. Chapter 491. This prince remembers that when you were in Mong Yuan, you said that you didn't want to continue walking this path anymore. You wanted to live a peaceful life. You said that even if you weren't by my side, this prince would definitely continue walking until I personally killed that animal, Yi Hongyi. So, please believe this prince this time. Yi Junqing's voice was very soft, so soft that Yao Moan had to listen very carefully to hear what he was saying. However, when she really did hear it, Yao Moan wished that she was deaf. Moan understands Prince's meaning. After the wedding with Chu Maobei the day after tomorrow, Moan will naturally return to Myriad Imperial City with Han Jini. Prince, please leave. Moan still has matters to discuss with Yin Shui. Yao Moan forcefully held back her tears. Her eyes were clear like water and her voice was like the spring rain. This prince bids farewell. Yi Junqing didn't know how he managed to walk out of the room. It was just a few steps, but he used up all the strength in his body. When he reached the door, Yi Junqing almost fell. Yi Junqing regretted it. The moment he turned around, he really wanted to slap himself. However, he had no other way out. He would rather use the most heartless words to sever his relationship with Yao Moan. He only wanted her to live a peaceful life far away from right and wrong, while he would have to carry Ma Xin's vengeance through a storm of blood. The reason he made this decision was because Yi Junqing knew that as long as Yao Moen stayed by his side, she would constantly scheme for him. Just like how she didn't tell him the cause of Ma Xin's death in Guan Osprey Palace, how she didn't tell him about Duan Shiming's harsh conditions in Nanxiang. She shouldered all the difficulties for him and blocked all the dangers for him. She was so selfless, but he couldn't even tell if it was real or fake. If you love, please love deeply. If you abandon, please be thorough. Don't be ambiguous and hurt yourself. Yao Moen continued to sit there even after Yi Junqing had left. She hadn't taken a sip of the tea in her hand. Yin Shui, in this matter, did I do something wrong? Tears silently streaked down, dripping into the teacup and giving rise to circular ripples. Ever since I started following Master, everything Master has done has always been for Yi Junqing's sake. Yin Shui refuses to accept his evaluation of Master like that. Master, please wait. Yin Shui will go drag Yi Junqing back right now and apologize to Master, said Yin Shui through clenched teeth. There's no need. The result he wants is exactly what I want. In fact, I also don't want to go back. With this consort present, it's inevitable that Yi Junqing's judgment will be affected. Actually, this consort has never doubted Yi Junqing's abilities. It's just that he doesn't believe me. Yao Moen pursed her lips bitterly and wiped away the tears in the corner of her eyes with a wave of her sleeve. Their relationship was deep and their fate was shallow. This was the will of the heavens, so how could she force it? That night, under Chu Mabei's arrangements, Lang Bingxin had a few deathsworn stay behind to disguise themselves as Feng Yihan, Duan Zitong, Han Jini, Kubu Dan, Di Feng, and the others. Afterwards, she sent secret envoys to escort them out of the capital. Master, why didn't you tell Chu Mabei that Chu Shi is 1,000 faces disguise? It wasn't until everyone dispersed that Lang Bingxin raised her suspicions. In reality, Lang Bingxin had already noticed some clues when they first entered the capital. This was also why Yao Moen had come up with the idea of secretly sending all the monarchs away. Of course, when it came to Chu Mabei, Yao Moen only used the adjective possibly. If Chu Mabei found out that this Chu Shi was fake, do you think he would wait until the day after tomorrow before taking action? Explained Yao Moen indifferently as she looked at the wedding attire the palace maid brought over. Bingxin has stayed in Great Shu for a period of time. Chu Mabei is a famous filial son. If he found out that you knew that Chu Shi was captured but didn't tell him, then this grudge would definitely be formed, reminded Lang Bingxin with good intentions. Back at Meng Yuan's Bright Moon Gorge, this bastard almost took this consort's life. Later on, this consort also poisoned him. Not only did it give him a toothache for a few days, it also made him swallow a large dark green flesh worm. The grudge between us has long been formed, so this little bit won't make much difference. Yao Moen smiled bitterly. She didn't really think much of it. Although it looked like she and Chu Mabei were strong rivals, they seemed to have worked together to do many things. Master, are you sure that Nameless will appear the day after tomorrow? Asked Lang Bingxin doubtfully. Do you think he invited all these monarchs to play around? Yao Moen firmly believed that Nameless would make a move and show himself. The atmosphere in Great Shu's imperial palace grew increasingly joyous. From time to time, eunuchs and palace maids would appear with colorful silk lanterns in their hands. There were less than 16 hours left until Chu Mabei and Yao Moen's wedding. Inside the stone room, Chu Shi looked at the golden chopsticks on the tray with a cold gaze. You succeeded. Under the illumination of the luminous pearls, Nameless' expression appeared extremely indifferent. Tomorrow, nephew Mabei will marry Yao Moen. Congratulations. Nameless cupped his fists in greeting as his lips curved slightly. Nameless, you overestimate yourself. You want to rely on killing the monarchs of the 7 countries to cause chaos in the 7 countries and then take advantage of the chaos to unify the 7 countries. Ha, that's simply a pipe dream. She didn't know if he should call Nameless naive or stupid. Not necessarily. King Chu, think about it. If the monarchs of the 5 countries die in Great Shu, will they join forces to attack Great Shu? Once they start fighting, they won't have time to worry about Great Shu's internal strife. Given Yi Juanqing's abilities, Nameless will be able to destroy him in half a year. In half a year, Great Shu and the other 5 countries will probably be fighting to the death. Afterwards, Nameless can just sit back and reap the benefits. Wouldn't that be perfect? This was Nameless' plan. Nameless. You want to destroy my Great Shu? You're going too far. She finally managed to get Nameless to spill the beans. In a sense, Nameless was trying to tell the truth. There's no other way. Of the 7 countries, only Great Shu can withstand the alliance of the 5 countries. So King Chu, don't blame Nameless. Since things have to be this way, Nameless has no other choice. Nameless felt very wronged, but he had no choice but to do this because of the orders from above. Things have to be this way. Is there a knife at your neck right now? Nameless, if you still care about our 8 sworn brothers, then go stop Ma Bei's wedding right now. Have the monarchs of the 5 countries leave. Chu Shi's words were completely meaningless to Nameless. If he really cared about their 8 sworn brothers, Chu Shi wouldn't be trapped here. Of course, Nameless didn't think so. If you didn't care about our 8 sworn brothers, does King Chu think that you'd still have the chance to sit here and talk to Nameless? Nameless shrugged. He was always willing to sacrifice himself for his friends. Nameless has to go out and prepare. I don't have time to listen to your lecture. Hurry up and eat. This can be considered another joyous occasion after Great Shu's crown prince. Nameless ignored Chu Shi's murderous gaze and got up to leave. Outside the stone room, Meiji walked over with light steps. Captain, the matter has been settled. This subordinate has already poisoned the food specially prepared for the monarchs tomorrow. Tomorrow, haha. Meiji reported with a faint smile. Good job. Are there no problems with Yao Moen and Yi Juanqing? Nameless was very clear about Yi Juanqing's feelings towards Yao Moen, so he had expected Yi Juanqing to come along. Fortunately, Yi Juanqing's name wasn't on the list, so he could let them off this time. Captain, don't worry, everything is normal, replied Meiji truthfully. And, Meiji, listen up. On the day of the wedding, pay attention to Yi Juanqing's movements. If there's a chance, send him out of the capital. Don't harm his life, ordered Nameless. Understood. Meiji accepted the order and left. According to the customs of Great Shu, the groom and bride couldn't meet the night before the wedding. It would be inauspicious. However, for Yao Moen and Chu Maobei, whether they met or not, tomorrow wouldn't be too auspicious. Gunya sent this to this crown prince. It seems that Yi Juanqing is really willing to throw caution to the wind for you. In the pavilion, Chu Maobei handed a letter to Yao Moen. His voice sounded a little sour. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.